Please be seated. Good evening, all. I would like to welcome you all to this Council Assembly meeting. I'm Councillor Sunilam, the Mayor of Southwark Council and the Chair of this meeting. There are no planned fire alarm tests this evening. If you hear the fire alarm, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the agreed assembly point, which is St. John's Churchyard off Drew Street. Council security staff will be available to direct you. The toilets are located to the side of the room on my right hand and also of the main reception area. Please, can you switch off your mobile phones to silent? Thank you for your cooperation. I have received the following apologies. Councillor Maria Linford Hall, Councillor David Watson, Councillor Evelyn Akoto, Councillor Mike Ibrani, Councillor Emily Dixon, Councillor Leo Polak, Councillor Joseph Vambi, and I believe I saw Councillor Naima Ali just now. So she's not, yeah, she's there. So, so I just noticed she's not, she's definitely here. Okay, right. I'm sad to announce the death of Alan Davis, former leader of the council and Bermondsey Councillor. I would like to invite Councillor Barry Hargrove to say a few words.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was agreed that Councillor Wingfield was going to do this. Thank you for the honour, but Councillor Wingfield and I discussed, and the message hasn't come through that Councillor Wingfield would make in the tribute to former Councillor Alan Davis.
Please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank Councillor Hargrove for letting me speak. Alan Davis, I first met, I guess, when I first came to Southwark back in 1986. He'd been an active councillor in Cathedral Ward, as it then was, now part of Borough and Bankside, from 1978 to 1986. Before that, he was an active probation officer in London and an activist in what is now the Unison trade union. He was originally from Birmingham, and when some of us went to his funeral, we found out he was a keen speedway rider, and he wanted a career in that regard. He's from Birmingham originally, and he was part of a club there. But unfortunately, he had an accident when he was a teenager, which meant that he couldn't pursue that career. But their loss was our gain. And in 1982, following the divisive Bermondsey by-election for the borough, he was elected leader of the Labour group to replace John O'Grady, who obviously had stood as an independent against the Labour Party. He was leader for 2 years, and in that time and ever since, any person that made a remark about Alan Davis would say that he had absolute commitment and devotion to this borough and its residents. Every year he used to attend the mayor making ceremony as a alderman of the borough, and everybody regarded him as a charming man, and that's very rare. You hear that in politics, another politician calling their colleagues charming. But anyway, he was always keen to catch up on council news and council gossip, so that political element never left him. He was also an active traveller to Japan because his wife was Japanese, so he visited Japan on many occasions. But in regard to Southwark, I think probably what will be mentioned as his most single important legacy, if I could put it that way, was he and Peter Cather, who were colleagues on the council at the time, founded the Southwark Law Centre in 1976, and it's still with us today, doing an excellent job. And it was that commitment, the drive to help those people that needed the help the most, and those that were most vulnerable and disadvantaged in the borough, that carried him through the whole of his political career. So that's my tribute to Alan, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ian Winfield. On Monday, I met with the group. Oh, sorry, I would like to ask if you are able to do so. Please stand for a minute silent in memory of Alan Davis. On Monday, I met with the group whips to consider the format of this evening's meeting. This is set out in the program motion, which has been tabled this evening. The motion explains how this evening's business will be conducted. The meeting now needs to vote upon the motion. So I would like to move to the vote on the program motion. Thank you. Please note that as per our program motion, the following committee evidence will be received tonight, and they will have 5 minutes each to speak. Citizens Advice, Southwark, Policy Institute, King's College, TUC, London East and South East. The following deputation will be received tonight, and they will have 5 minutes to speak. Echo Council Judith Care School, Living Bankside. Members have agreed the program motion, and I shall be moving the meeting on accordingly. And members are asked to keep to the agreed timings, please. Thank you. The clerk will now explain what other papers have been circulated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council Assembly. The following papers have been circulated for this meeting. The main agenda papers, which were circulated in 7 days before this meeting. We also have supplemental agenda number 1, which has the public question, community evidence requests, deputation requests, and amendments to motions. The following papers have also been circulated by email this evening to all members and also are available on the council's website. Members' questions and responses, the late question and response to public question, and the program motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do any members wish to make any declaration of interest? When making your declaration, can you please specify if it is a disclosable pecuniary interest? And please state the nature of the interest.
Mr. Mayor, I've been advised I have a disclosable pecuniary interest in item 5.2 motion 1, as the motion mentions my employer. So I will withdraw from that item of business and return for the second motion.
Councillor Dean as well. Councillor Dean.
Okay, Councillor Dean?
Dean.
Okay, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a disposable pecuniary interest in item 6.3. I'm an employee of HMCTS, His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service, and I have worked at the Crown Court, including the Inner London Crown Court.
I think that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dean and Councillor Livingston. Any member who declares a disclosable pecuniary interest in an item will be asked to leave the meeting for that item. When the item has been voted on, they will be welcome to return to the meeting. Can we approve the minutes of the ordinary and extraordinary meetings of Council Assembly held on 9th of July, 2025 as a correct record? As part of the program motion, it was agreed that the meeting should finish at 10 p.m. We shall move on to issues raised by the public. There are no petitions this evening. There's one question from the public this evening. The answer to the question has been circulated by email and is available on the council's website. Unfortunately, public questionnaire is not attending tonight. As part of the program motion, members agreed to hear the deputation from Judith Kerr Primary School now. Can we please bring forward the deputation, please? Will the deputations post people please address the meeting? You have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you for having us this evening. My name's Gabby and I'm accompanied here today by brilliant children from Judith Kerr Primary School. There's Bea, Martha, Starin, Kitty and Ida who are all joining me. Many of them met Councillor Margie Newlands and MP Helen Hayes at a Safer Street event held by the school 18 months ago. And they want to follow up with the work that they've been doing since to help reduce road danger around the key junction between Half Moon Lane, Village Way and Beckwith Road, right outside their school, and share with you what they've been up to and also ask for your help to do more. And Bea's going to start off by telling you what it's like outside the school on her way in.
As I walked to school, I get buffeted by all the people and pushed towards the road where the cars and buses are going so fast. The pavements are so narrow and crowded. I wanted to know if other people felt the same way, so I helped organise a survey.
So B helped organise our survey and did a picture to promote it. And we had an amazing response locally. We've had over 200 replies, people filling in that survey, 90% of whom are residents in Southwark. And we had submissions from so many different schools in the area. So I'm just going to list them for you because it is extraordinary how many schools use this crucial junction. Allane's Junior School and Senior School, Bessemer Grange Primary School, Charter School East Dulwich, Charter School North Dulwich, Dulwich Hamlet Junior School, Dulwich Infant School, Ducks, James Allen's Preparatory School, Junior School and Senior School, Judith Kerr Primary School, Half Moon Lane Montessori, Herne Hill German Kindergarten, Herne Hill School, Kingsdale, Rosendale, Rosemead, Dulwich College, Dulwich Prep, Greycoat, Sydenham High Schools, Elm Green, Ruskin House Nursery, Harris, East Dulwich. Demonstrating this is a vital intersection for residents and families in the area. Going to school and frankly, education is one of the major local industries around this junction, but not just school trips. Also, it came out that it was key for people using local sports facilities and shops. And of those people who responded, over 80%, my children, it was on Strictly, right? 80% of people said they were worried about road danger. And the topmost concern was speeding traffic, with 82% of those worried, specifically worried on this point. And it's not surprising, because Sterren is going to tell you about a speed watch session that she conducted earlier this month.
I'm an Eco Council member for Year 3 in Judith Kerr Primary School. Last week, we counted how many cars went over the speed limit outside my school. We used a machine on the lamppost, and if it flashed, the car went over the limit. We found out that 87% of cars went over the limit. I would like that road to be safer for my friends and the children in the other school.
And in fact, this shouldn't come as a surprise to Southwark Council, because in your own brilliant and ambitious Streets for People delivery plan, then Village Way was highlighted as a speeding hotspot in the borough. And that speed is having a real impact at the crossing points. 65% of respondents who were worried about road danger had seen cars driving through or around crossing points, literally around them, and feared for their safety. 50% of people worried said they had been worried for their own safety because drivers had failed to stop for them at crossings. But stats can feel very impersonal. Along with our statistics, we gathered almost 100 personal experiences submitted by detailing stories of cars driven on the wrong side of the road, cyclists being bullied by traffic, drivers intimidated simply for sticking at the 20-mile speed limit, of trips not taken due to fear. And Ida is going to hold up a word cloud that gives you an indication of the sort of stories that we heard, and I'm happy to share the full responses if they'd be useful for you. The biggest impact was on cycling, and Martha is going to say a little bit about what it's like cycling.
When I cycle on a bike lane, I feel safer, but when I go on Half Moon Lane, I feel a bit crowded by the traffic. And I might also add that I feel a bit overwhelmed and uncomfortable when people push me when I'm walking. And I do not like the pollution, and I want a day for students not to use cars and walk, bike.
Thank you. There are real consequences to these fears. Our survey shows that it's limiting and preventing people using their preferred form of active travel. It's stopping children being allowed to travel to school independently, such an important step. It's stopping people using local shops and sports facilities, and most ironically, it's resulting in people using their cars for trips because the alternatives feel unsafe. The Great Streets for People delivery plan commits to a school street or other safety measures at every school in the borough by 2030. The work in and around Dulwich Square has radically changed that area and the school run in a really amazing way, with so many more parents and kids cycling now. This highlights the need for a better corridor on Half Moon Lane and Village Way. And so Kitty has a question for you.
Please, can you do more to make the junction by our school safer? Hundreds of school children use it every day, and loads of us want to walk and cycle more.
And that's the end of our deputation. So we'd love to hear.
Okay. Do you have a question? You have a question? Okay, which cabinet member would like to respond, please? Councillor Makash. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So firstly, thank you so much for coming to speak to us this evening. You all spoke so well, so confidently. I can clearly see one day you being in this chamber yourself. I'm not sure I'd always recommend it, but you absolutely could if you wanted to. You made some really good points there. So B, your point about the narrow pavements and how that's so dangerous and how it can be so unpleasant to walk along when there's crowded streets and there's lots of traffic next to it. Seren, what you were saying about speeding is absolutely spot on. We know how dangerous speeding vehicles are for pedestrians, for cyclists, and indeed for other people in their vehicles. And Martha, your point about cycle lanes is absolutely spot on. We absolutely desperately need more cycle lanes. That's the easiest, the safest, the most pleasant way to cycle around when there's traffic on our streets. I'm really pleased to say that all these things, I think you know, are very closely linked. They're all part of our Streets of People strategy. They're all things that we are trying to deliver. The borough's a big place. It takes some time to get around everywhere, but I can answer your question specifically, Kitty. So your question was, what can we do to make that junction safer? Well, I have an answer for you. What we are going to do is we are going to very soon go out to consultation to ask people like yourselves, but also parents and residents in the local area about installing a pedestrian crossing there and about widening the pavements to tackle all those different problems that you're set out. I can't give you an exact time frame for that, but it will be very soon. And I'd also absolutely love it if I could come and meet you and speak to you in more detail about how we can make sure that really works for you and for all your classmates and members of the Eco Council. So thank you so much for coming to speak to us. That was absolutely brilliant, and I'm looking forward to being able to continue the conversation and make sure that street outside your school is as safe, as beautiful, and clean as green as it possibly can be. Thank you.
I will now ask, I would like to thank the deputation for attending this evening. Officers will now escort the deputation to the public sitting area if you wish to listen to the debate. Thank you. We shall now consider the first committee evidence submission on the theme from Citizen Advice Server. Can officer please bring forward the requester? Thank you. Thank you for attending this evening. You have 5 minutes in which to address the Assembly.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Thank you for letting us speak today. My name is Kim Go, Head of Services at Citizen Advice Southwark, and I'm here today with my colleague Sui Kwan, our Private Renter Support Project Coordinator. We're here this evening to reflect on and celebrate what's been achieved through the Renters' Rights Act and highlight what it means for Southwark's private renters. Firstly, we welcome the Act's abolition of Section 21's no-fault evictions. This should mean that renters can plan their lives with more certainty request repairs with less fear of being punished, and have more security and dignity in their tenancies. But it also brings a big communications challenge. Our current research indicates that only a small proportion of tenants have even heard of the Renters' Rights Act, and we anticipate some rogue landlords will continue to issue Section 21 notices to intimidate or harass even after the law changes. Raising awareness amongst renters and landlords will be crucial to making this reform effective. Secondly, the Act changes how landlords can raise rents and the associated Section 13 procedure. Renters will soon be able to challenge unreasonable rent increases with much less risk than they previously faced. This is the Act's only measure addressing affordability, though, and it could make a tangible difference in the cost of living for renters, but only if renters know these rights exist and how to use them. At Citizens Voice Southwark, we'll be monitoring how these reforms play out locally, whether the end of Section 21 genuinely delivers protection from unfair eviction, whether tribunals truly make rent challenges meaningful. The law is a vital step forward, but rights on paper only matter when people know how to claim them.
This is where the work of the Southwark Private Renters Support Organisation comes in, making those new rights a reality by building knowledge and confidence amongst private renters. We'd like to invite all councillors here to help your constituents get involved by encouraging private renters to join our mailing list, find practical information on our website, and attend a Know Your Housing Rights workshop. These are the best ways to stay informed about their changing rights. This year, our Know Your Housing Rights workshops have targeted migrant and refugee communities in particular. We know that many refugees are particularly vulnerable to the extremes of homelessness, housing stress, and insecurity in the private rented sector, as one such workshop participant shared with us, saying, "This is the worst experience of my life, which started from the hotels until now. The whole process of securing accommodation has been full of stress, and I now have high blood pressure, take sleeping pills, and have been ill from spending a month street homeless." We know the challenges faced by the most marginalized renters will continue in the years to come. As the law changes, we will continue to engage with these communities, working in partnership with the council and Southwark's vital voluntary and community sector to empower residents in their new rights.
And as we welcome new gains, we're also looking at where we've come from and the work still to be done. 3 years ago, our colleague Tim Clark addressed the Council Assembly and reported that the biggest problem facing private renters in Southwark is the lack of affordable housing. This remains the biggest problem facing renters today, and it's substantively unaddressed by the Renters' Rights Act. We therefore need an introduction of rent controls to redress a crisis of affordability, where median rents in Southwark far exceed local housing allowance, making private renting the most unaffordable type of tenure, particularly for low-income renters. Our longer-term vision looks towards how we can grow support for rent controls amongst stakeholders in Southwark and lobby the Mayor of London to pressure central government for powers to implement rent controls in London.
Some may view the passing of the Renters' Rights Act as an endpoint in achieving a fair deal for renters. But through our work within the Southwark community, we believe it to be just a milestone in a longer journey towards achieving true justice for renters and an equitable system delivering safe, affordable homes for all. We hope that councillors will join us in our efforts to realise this future and support the continuation of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you for attending this evening. We shall now consider the second community evidence submission on the theme from King's College. Can officers please bring forward the question?
For having us and inviting us here.
Thank you for attending this evening. You have 5 minutes in which to address the assembly. Your time start now.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Just to briefly introduce ourselves, my name is Kirsty. I'm a researcher from the Policy Institute at King's College London. I'm here with my colleague Mary Pez. And we're here to speak about ongoing partnerships that we've been doing with Southwark Council. We've been working on projects on cost of living, low pay, climate change adaptation. But in the spirit of this week, which is Living Wage Week. We've been doing a project with Southwark Council around how people experience earning the London living wage. So we've been working with 15 people who live and work in Southwark to capture a month in the life of people who live people who earn either just above the London living wage or just below. And so this group of 15 people shared in real time how they budget for the month, the choices and trade-offs they make in their spending, and how this connects to other aspects of their life, so things around their well-being and those sorts of topics. And while the study is still ongoing, I think there are important and practical insights that really do give an insight into what earning a real living wage means in practice. So I'm just going to hand over to Mary Paz, who's going to talk through some of those emerging findings.
Yes, hi everyone. Like Kirsty said, we're still finalizing the analysis of the work that we've been doing with Southwark Council and the Living Wage Foundation as well. But already there's been some really consistent narratives that have come out of the research. So I'll just go through a few of them. The first one we found is that finances are front of mind in daily calculations, and that was for participants across the board, but especially for participants who are earning below the London living wage. We've found that unexpected costs can have really strong effects. So that can be a child starting a new school, a child needing a backpack, or an appliance breaking. Like the effect that that has on people's lives is much more difficult amongst our participants earning under the London living wage. It's also increasingly hard to plan for their future or to future-proof their life. So planning for the future includes things like buying a car or, leaving their home or purchasing a home. And future proofing includes things like, there was one participant who kind of told a story when she was earning under the London living wage. If an appliance broke, then that would kind of be her month done. She would have to borrow money, she would have to do all these things. And now she's earning above, she has insurance on her appliances. So that's just one thing less for her to think about. So that kind of future proofing. Another finding has been around how financial stress links to social withdrawal. So just making it more difficult for people to access community life. Because one of our big questions was, how does what you earn affect how you interact with Southwark, right? So with your borough. And a few examples included things like being able to go out with your coworkers or with your friends. So just being able to go out in the borough, and thinking about whether examples are you're going to have to buy a round of pints for people, or whether you can, just engage. And I think those things were a lot more difficult for our participants earning under the London living wage. But it also came up when we talked about kind of accessing even free or low cost services within the borough. So one participant spoke about how, it's nice that libraries are free and things like that, but she's not able to really reach them because herself and her 2 kids, and the library is a bit too far and they have to take the bus altogether, and there and back is already a cost that can be a bit too much on a tight month. So yeah, kind of the importance of having enough money to be able to even interact with the borough is a really important finding. Although Kirsty will speak more as to what the borough can perhaps do. And then lastly, there was kind of impacts on how people viewed their employer. If they were if they were to be a London living wage employer, and perhaps that's unsurprisingly, they're being paid more, but also it was really tied to how they viewed whether their employer respected them for the type of work that they do, and also whether they had empathy for what it means to live a decent life in London and in Southwark.
Thanks, Marcus. And just, thank you. So the findings, I think, are really encouraging as to the difference that the London living wage makes, and the important work that Southwark Council is doing in terms of promoting that with employers. But I think another thing that's come out of this work is it's also important to recognise that it's not the only solution that the council should be making. So lots of our participants were talking about affordable housing, access to childcare, transport, cheaper food options in the borough, all of these sort of things coming into this wider package of how the council can support them. So we'll be releasing the findings in January, but very happy for anyone to reach out to us if you want to hear more about the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for attending this evening. We shall now consider the third committee evidence submission on the theme from Trade Union Congress, London East and Southeast. Can officers please bring forward the requested?
to be turned on for you.
Okay. So, once you're, thank you for attending this evening. You have 5 minutes in which to address the assembly.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity to address you all. My name is Maria McCall, and I am here. I should be here with Sam Gurney, who is the Regional Secretary for London East South East, and he wishes you all a good evening. He's unfortunately unwell. I'm here with two hats, so I'd like to give you what Sam would have said. And the reason why I'm here is I coordinate something called the Southwark Know Your Rights group under London Unemployed Strategies. Am I too close to the mic? No, is it? It just sounds terrible here. And I coordinate groups around London of people using social security, peer-to-peer support, non-expert, who help each other navigate the journey through social security. So first I'm going to give you Sam's presentation from the Trade Union Congress. And Sam, as I say, is the Regional Secretary for London East South East. So Sam would like to thank Southwark for the work you have already done to promote unions and the living wage in the borough, including support for the Work Safe Join a Union campaign during COVID, for referencing union recognition as a criteria in the council's procurement code, establishing a living wage zone, signing up to and implementing Unison's social care charter, supporting London Central, London Forward's work, looking at exploitative labour practices and bad business models in central London, and so much more. Joining a union and organising in your workplace remains the best and most sustainable way to protect and improve working conditions. Moving forward, there's so much more that the TUC would like to do and increase union membership and organisation within the borough. The new London Growth Plan includes a commitment to support union growth in London, as you know, especially over the next decade. And the TUC, London East South East, are committed to supporting all affiliated unions to work with progressive boroughs like Southwark, and all the GLA have to deliver this. The Employment Rights Bill, as you know, which is moving on through, if delivered in full, will make a real difference to working conditions in London and in Southwark, as well as action to deliver on the government's commitment to the biggest wave of insourcing in a generation. But a lot of joint work will be needed to ensure Southwark residents and workers really benefit. And Sam would very much like to keep in touch with those that we've made contact with through this invitation regarding future endeavours. Regarding London Unemployed Strategies and those in your borough who are using social security, and I'm not sure how much time, you may need to cut me off, but it's a group of people, normal residents, for varied reasons, who need now to claim support in one shape or form. And we could talk about 100 issues: poverty, mental distress, loneliness. And it was wonderful to hear the citizens' advice and the previous speaker, the King's College. Because the issues are the same, but digital exclusion is one that we particularly wanted to raise with you. And we do know that, well, looking at the figures, is my time nearly up? So digital exclusion is something we very seriously want you to perhaps do better with. I have a lot to say about the good work that you have done and are doing, but also around a take-up campaign around people claiming benefits. They don't always know what they need. So much more to say, running out of time, but the residents do need more support. And we thank you for all you're doing, but please do more. Thank you.
I would like to thank you for attending this evening. Thank you. We will. Can you please allow the council assembly program to continue, please? Please, can you allow the council assembly
Sit down.
Thank you. Please sit down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about the unplanned recess we just had. I think the meeting can now proceed, but believe make a comment. Okay. All right. We can now proceed with the rest of the meeting. Thank you for bearing with us. So we now consider the theme motion. Councillor John Batterson, Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency, Jobs and Business, you have 7 minutes in which to present the theme debate and the motion on the theme. Okay, so, all right. So, Councillor Patterson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to start by quickly sending our support to people in Jamaica who are still coming to terms with the devastation caused by the recent hurricane. I was there a few months ago visiting family who are all safe, but we know others weren't as fortunate. We have a large and proud Jamaican community here in Southwark, and we send our thoughts to everyone as they start to rebuild the country, including their businesses and their homes. Tonight, I'm proud to propose this motion focusing on rights for our residents. The theme is important and it is deeply personal. I'm sure we all know people, whether it's individuals we've represented as ward councillors, friends or family members, who have had negative experiences at work or faced insecure living arrangements. Unsure where to turn for support or advice when suffering harassment in the workplace, or whether or not their landlord will evict them at the drop of a hat. While tonight's motion focuses on people's rights, it also highlights the close connection between our environment at home and our experience at work. I saw just how much one impacts the other when helping a Newton resident recently. A woman explained to me that due to no fault of her own, she had been evicted from the property she lived in for several years. The council was supporting her find alternative accommodation, but she was also in a 0 hours contract. Viewing properties meant losing income. She was trapped in a situation not of her own making, without any security at home or support at work to help her through. This is why tonight's motion is so important. We know if local people are in settled, secure and decent accommodation, they are more likely to succeed at work. If their job provides guaranteed hours where they are free from harassment and living wage, they can pay their bills on time without falling into hardship. Greater security at home and the right protection at work means those we represent can lead more fulfilling lives. Now, our party was formed out of the trade union movement to stand up for working people, address exploitation, secure fair pay and improve conditions at work. Just a few weeks ago, the trade union I'm a member of, the GMB, held their Southern Race Conference here in Southwark, and it was particularly relevant to tonight's theme. It highlighted the disadvantages faced by people working in our economy. Just under half of the UK population have suffered discrimination at work. That figure jumps to 3/4 for Black and minority ethnic workers, who are also twice as likely to have a 0 hours contract, often doing jobs we all heavily rely on, such as those in health and social care. These are inequalities which need to be addressed. Last month, the council delivered on our manifesto promise to make sure local people understand their rights at work and promote the many benefits of trade union membership. Our Know Your Rights, Know Your Worth campaign also highlighted where support is available, because as we heard tonight, and crucially, stronger rights at work are only as worthwhile as people's understanding of them, and where to go if they are unsure or need confidential advice. The Renters' Rights Act and the Employment Rights Bill brought forward by this Labour government will improve people's lives here in Southwark. Preventing rent hikes, which make tenants immediately worse off, and banning no-fault evictions that have increased homelessness are measures I'm sure we all support. Where we seem to differ is on the issue of employment rights, because over the summer, the Liberal Democrats once again joined forces with the Conservative Party and Reform UK in opposing guaranteed hours for workers that will come through the Employment Rights Bill. Maybe they can explain why their party is attempting to dilute stronger rights for working families and prevent people in Southwark from having sick pay, paternity rights and protections against unfair dismissal from day one in a new job, or the guaranteed working hours rather than the insecurity and uncertainty that comes with a 0 hours contract. This is not the first time a Labour government has faced opposition when improving rights for people. Other political parties also opposed us when establishing the NHS and providing people with free healthcare in 1948, introducing the national minimum wage, protecting the lowest paid workers from exploitation in 1999, right through to today, and the strengthening of employment rights, which are being put in place by the current government. Let's be absolutely clear. The biggest advancements in people's rights have always come under a Labour government. No other political party in this country has a track record of supporting working people like ours. Now, tonight's Council Assembly also comes during Living Wage Week, which this year has a specific focus on the difference it makes to those who receive it. This is important because we know that over 1,000 Southwark residents earn less than the minimum wage, and 5 times that number don't receive any holiday pay. We also know far too many people across our borough are working full-time hours and still struggling to pay their bills on time or afford other essentials. But we're taking action. The Southwark Living Wage Unit, which we set up, has encouraged more businesses to pay the London living wage and helped over 7,000 local people out of poverty pay. There are now over 450 accredited living wage employees across the borough as we work towards doubling the number we had in 2022 by next year. This has been recognised by the Living Wage Foundation, where we won 2 awards this year, including Industry Champion, demonstrating our commitment to support those on the lowest wages through the cost of living crisis. And just as we've done with our living wage work, we will also support businesses through the changes that come from the Employment Rights Bill to make sure it benefits them as well as our residents. So finally, private tenants receiving greater protections from the Labour Party nationally, and working people about to get more security at work through stronger employment rights. Here in Southwark, we will keep lifting up those on the lowest pay, make sure everyone is treated fairly at work, and continue to address inequalities so our local economy is one which everyone can benefit from.
Thank you. The lead opposition spokesperson will now have an opportunity to reply to the Cabinet member statement and speak to Amendment A. Councillor Emily Tester, you have 5 minutes in which to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion tonight talks about rights for residents, and of course, we support that. Rights at work matter, but our amendment does what Labour's motion can't bring itself to do. It recognises the catastrophic failure of this administration on housing. Let's start with the basics. A £6 million overspend on major works, and for what? Leaking roofs and scaffolding that stays up longer than some Labour leaders. A damning verdict from the regulator of social housing, finding serious failings, half of homes without working smoke alarms or up-to-date security checks. And last year, 0 council home starts, not 1 brick laid. You almost have to admire the consistency of that number. Meanwhile, your Labour mayor and Labour government have slashed the affordable housing targets from 35% to 20%. And Southwark Labour quietly nods along. The same party that loves to campaign with hard hats, but never seems to deliver on hard housing. You're hiding behind slogans, massage figures and glossy leaflets. But the lived reality in Southwark is this. Rents, residents that people can't afford, 21,000 households on the waiting list and too many families living with damp and mould. So I asked the Labour benches directly, when you knock on doors and a resident says their child is sleeping in a room which is black with mould, do you tell them to know their worth, know their rights?
Do they believe you when you're trying to tell them that you're fixing things? Because I don't think they do anymore. The truth is, there are no excuses left. After 15 years in charge, this tired Labour administration has run out of people to blame. They can't blame the Tories, they can't blame austerity anymore, and they can only blame themselves. Labour once promised homes for the many, but in Southwark, it's press releases for the many and good quality homes for the few. Our amendment calls for proper enforcement against rogue landlords, even if that landlord happens to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and for reinstating one-stop housing shops that actually help residents get things fixed. Mr. Mayor, this administration is out of ideas, out of credibility, and soon, I suspect, out of time. Southwark residents deserve better than damp promises and dodgy statistics. They deserve homes that are safe, secure, and genuinely affordable. And let's give them that by supporting our amendment. Thank you.
You. We have quite a few members who have, as part of this program motion, the meeting has agreed to have a combined debate on the motion and the amendment. And we have a few members who have indicated they wish to speak. Sadly, we only have a limited time for the theme debate, so we will take as many as we can. So I will start with Councillor Natasha Enning, please.
My Cabinet and Ward colleague, Councillor Batterson, has already spoke about the Employment Rights Bill and touched upon the Renters' Rights Act. In my shorter speaking time, I want to speak to how monumental the Renters' Rights Act is. It fundamentally alters the balance of power between landlords and tenants. It is a welcome attempt to correct a market that has failed private renters for far too long, including 86,000 private renters. It will only be effective if private renters know these changes are being made. I know that as a borough, working together, we can help our residents seize this opportunity to enhance their rights and create a private rental sector that works for them. I'm incredibly grateful to colleagues within the council, grassroots organisations and voluntary sector partners who work to ensure residents know their rights. That's why Southwark Labour continues to endorse the Private Renters Project. We've been ahead of times. In 2023, when that project was set up, this was a dedication by the previous cabinet member, Darren Merrill, who had worked to ensure that our renters' rights were heard. We also continue to support the safer renting and justice for tenants, and we've made a clear commitment to make sure our civic leaders are trained up as private rented champions. Having been an advisor for several years, I've had first-hand experience of supporting private renters, facing homelessness due to no-fault evictions, unfair rental hikes, retaliatory evictions, often for reporting disrepairs, and outright discrimination due to having children or simply being recipients of benefits. The Renters' Rights Act brings this all to an abrupt halt, and I'm proud that we have a Labour government implementing the change we need. I can assure this Assembly that the Council is ready to play its part, and we have already commenced help to support residents fight for their rights. Our regulatory services team will support the ending of Section 21 no-fault evictions while our trade-in standards enforcement work to provide signposting and advice to our private sector rented residents and liaise with the private sector rented ombudsman to provide evidence where breaches are necessary. We will work on the enforcement for landlords who have not signed up to the ombudsman or the PRS database, and we will issue civil penalty notices where appropriate. Our trade-in standards will closely monitor the ban on rental bidding and again, will take action where deemed appropriate. We also commit to ensure that the PRS compliance with decent home standards and ABAB's law will be actioned. Working around reporting of key performance indicators and reporting to the Ministry of Housing, MHCRD. As I said at the beginning, this Act offers a chance to reset the relationships between the landlord and tenants. When taken together, the significant improvement in workers' rights that John spoke about, the people of Southwark will see a welcome upgrade in their rights.
Time is up. Councillor Enning, your time is up. Thank you, Councillor Enning. I will now call on Councillor Sam Dalton, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to follow on and also speak a little bit about the Renters' Rights Act and its monumental importance. I think it's an example of something where this introduction of rights isn't just of legal importance, but it's really about bringing vital social outcomes as well in Southwark. It's going to make a huge impact for private renters, the more than 85,000 that we've got in our borough and across the country. We know that private renting can be extremely precarious, insecure form of housing. And this act is going to tackle that through the banning of Section 21 no-fault evictions, something I myself experienced a few years ago, through ending bidding wars over rental properties, through more secure forms of rolling tenancies, and much more. And as well as the overall positive impacts of this act on private renters, it will have a massive effect in tackling the huge social crisis of homelessness, an area which I work in professionally. Last year, for example, homelessness membership charity Homeless Link found that Section 21 evictions had led to households being officially threatened with homelessness 84,000 times just since 2019. And it was in 2019 when the Conservative government first said that it would look at getting rid of this type of evictions. So just in that 5-year gap of dither and delay from the previous government, 84,000 people were put at risk of homelessness just through this one single type of eviction. The Conservatives, we know, never did abolish Section 21 evictions. We have. And that's a real life example of how rights translate into good social outcomes. It's not going to solve homelessness all on its own, but it will make a huge difference. All of this doesn't mean that the work stopped here on renters' rights, though. We do still need to keep the pressure up on the national government to actually make sure the Act is implemented as soon as possible and comes into force. And we need to work with landlords and renters in Southwark to make sure the Act is understood and complied with. I think Citizens Advice Southwark spoke really well on that earlier, and Councillor Ennings just set out in lots of really good detail our role as a council, I think, in working with landlords and with renters to make sure that that message gets through. But in terms of a set of rights that will have a massive social impact in our borough, what a step forward the Renters' Rights Act is.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Richard Bentley, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We welcome this motion's focus on residents' rights, and it was very useful to hear the evidence from Citizens Advice, KCL, and also the TUC. Because I think we're all in agreement, and it sounds like we're on the same page when it comes to housing. Because rights, it's fundamentally about dignity, fairness, and basic security. Because the right to a decent home isn't an optional extra, it's a human right. It's enshrined in international law. It's the very foundation of a good life. But for too many people, too many of our residents here in Southwark, it's a right that doesn't exist. The regulator of social housing found serious failings here. Homes without working smoke alarms, without electrical safety checks. And across the borough, tenants of housing associations are living with damp, mould, leaks and broken heating, with little action from this council to hold them to account. And it's not surprising, is it? Because those same complaints are levelled squarely at this council too. It's not good enough. People deserve better than a system which reacts only when stories hit the headlines. Our amendment tonight, proposed by my colleague, calls for proper action, proper enforcement against rogue landlords, for one-stop shops that would make housing services really accessible again, and for a social housing improvement board that would hold those housing associations to account properly. Because if you don't have a safe and secure home, it's almost impossible to build a stable life and a better future. I hear from people week after week whose housing situation is holding back their ability to work, to study, and to stay well. So yes, we do support stronger workers' rights, but the right to a good home is just as fundamental, and it's being neglected here in Southwark. We're not here to shout. Well, I'm not, at least. But we're here because residents come to us week after week saying they've been ignored. They've waited weeks, months, and sometimes longer for for basic repairs, but often also just for a reply that is compassionate and coherent. On the doors, we used to hear disappointment and frustration, and I'm sure everyone in this room is finding this too, but that disappointment has now turned to anger. Anger that after 15 years of Labour running Southwark and now a Labour government nationally, the same excuses keep being made while people's homes and their health and their lives fall apart. So I ask colleagues opposite and those alongside to really listen to what residents are saying to us when they ask for help. It's time to call out the party line for the spin that—
Your time is almost up.
And because it's getting really, really tired. Thank you.
Dave. I will now call on Councillor Kesia Harper, please.
Thank you. Ooh, sorry. I've done a lot of casework over the past 3.5 years as a ward councillor, but also in my day job working for a trade union as a caseworker and an officer. And I've been appalled by the levels of deprivation and desperation I've encountered, both from people in work and insecure housing. And this motion, unfortunately, does not go anywhere near far enough to mitigate these problems. It's all very well for a Labour government to support renters' rights and workers' rights in the private rental and job sector. But what about the government facing up to their responsibilities to address these things? The housing and homelessness crisis has been compounded by local authorities' inability to fulfil its duty of care to those who have a right to safe housing. And whilst the government has discharged its duty to local authorities, national government has overarching responsibility as a funder of these services. Cutting affordable housing targets and effectively handing over housing to the private sector does nothing to improve renters' rights. If the government was really interested in solving the housing crisis, why haven't they offered retrospective grants to fund fire safety works rather than allowing HRAs to be decimated? If Southwark also doesn't have the best track record as a landlord, I do believe that austerity has tied the council's hands, but when contracts are mismanaged to the overspend of £6 million, or where residents are regularly required to attend hospital due to fires on their blocks, which is a problem in my ward, Southwark Council has a duty to take accountability for this and could make use of this information to demand proper funding from the government. The government is also an employer. In fact, England's largest employer, the NHS, their services are directly funded by the government. What does this motion say about the rights of workers in the NHS? What does it say about the agenda for change, which is leading to restructuring, also known as cuts, across hundreds of health services, and estimated 18,000 jobs being cut? What about the rights of nurses, who have been the sharpest end of real term pay cuts for over a decade? This problem can no longer be blamed on the historic Tory government. The 2025-26 pay deal, which has been offered to nurses and rejected by nurses, didn't even meet inflation, let alone go anywhere near addressing the years of real term pay cuts. I've been told for years we just need a Labour government, and then the suffering that I'm seeing every day will begin to be mitigated. However, since Labour have come to power, I have only seen a double down on the cruel and regressive politics of austerity and individualism. It is hard to express the deep level of disappointment I have felt following the last 14 months of a Labour government. My hope that things would get better for residents have truly been crushed. This motion appears to be a desperate attempt to show that a Labour government is doing something, anything, the bare minimum, to act in line with the party's so-called values and shift responsibility away from the government to solve the disastrous effects of austerity on residents. I realise that the ward I represent is one of the most deprived in the borough, but I think we all know that the minimal scope of this motion is an indication to us all that nothing is going to change anytime soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Victoria Mills, please.
I'm proud to support this Labour motion, which reaffirms our belief that rights empower people and improve lives. Labour's always been the party of working families and has always led the way in enshrining these rights in law. So from introducing the national minimum wage to guaranteeing a full year of maternity leave and paid paternity leave to pioneering the right to request flexible working. We've got a proud record both nationally and here in Southwark. But if our mission is to put people first, we must always recognise where rights need to go further. And one area that I want to speak about this evening is supporting families of multiple births. The Twins Trust, the multiple birth charity, makes this case powerfully. So parents of multiple face extra costs. They estimate £20,000 in the first year alone. Families need 2 or 3 of many essential items, expensive items like double or triple buggies. They have higher childcare costs. Sorry. But the financial strain is only one part of the story. Multiple pregnancies are often higher risk. Many mothers must begin maternity leave weeks earlier than those expecting one baby. I was lucky to have a very happy and healthy multiple pregnancy, but I did go on maternity leave at 33 weeks. The result of the fact that I measured full term by 26 weeks, I was not allowed to take sick pay. I had to take my maternity leave 6 weeks before my 2 babies arrived. And recovery from multiple birth can be longer too. This means total paid time and leave after birth is often significantly shorter, even when our responsibilities multiply. Maternity pay is currently per pregnancy, yet the reality is that parents of multiples face higher costs, they have greater caring demands, yet they receive no additional leave or support. Other countries do recognise this. In Germany, mothers of multiples receive additional paid leave. In Sweden, parental leave is extended by 180 days for each additional child. These systems understand that fairness sometimes means differentiated support. And Southwark has already shown that we can lead on maternity rights. Back in 2018, we introduced extra paid leave and pay to parents of premature babies. That scheme gave 1 additional week of paid leave for every week a baby was born early prior to 37 weeks. It recognised the emotional, medical, financial strain those families face. That's why tonight, while I support the motion, and the great work on renters' rights, fair pay, workplace protections, I'm offering a friendly challenge to our Labour Council and our Labour government. Let's review our maternity and paternity leaves locally and advocate nationally for extended.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor John Ackley, please. Councillor John Ackley.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't indicate.
That's number 6, isn't it?
He said he doesn't want to speak.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, this is number 7. Okay, Councillor Victor Chamberlain, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's deeply disappointing that a motion about residents' rights hardly mentions the most basic human right of all, the right to a safe, secure and genuinely affordable home. Our amendment, which Labour will no doubt vote down to avoid the scrutiny, puts that right at the centre. This administration is ignoring the rights of the 21,000 Southwark households. That's now 1 in 6 that are waiting for a council home or living in damp, mould and disrepair. Labour's culture of denial runs deep, as we've seen tonight. Mr. Mayor, how ironic it is for a Labour administration, one that claims it's rooted in the union movement, to be refusing to listen to a renters' union this evening. When one of Labour's councillors spoke out about the shocking condition of the Aylesbury estate, they had to resign the Labour whip just to tell the truth. That says everything about this administration's approach. Silence those who raise concerns and just hope residents aren't listening to it. Labour's motion talks about fairness and accountability, but what about those tenants that are living in unlicensed properties? Labour at the last election promised a zero tolerance to rogue landlords, yet when their own chancellor knowingly failed to get a licence for more than a year, the zero tolerance became very forgiving. Either Labour have broken that promise or they're treating their chancellor differently. What is it? And that follows a Labour homelessness minister making her tenants homeless. It follows a Labour MP being exposed as a slum landlord and a deputy prime minister that doesn't pay her tax. The housing scandals here in Southwark are just as bleak as the national ones. The damning regulators report exposed serious failings in how Southwark deals with housing. It led to the first extraordinary meeting of this council and vote of no confidence in 18 years. The resignation of a council leader, and in the words of former Labour Faraday councillors, Labour's corrupt officials and toxic Bermondsey MP Neil Coyle overturning our election in order to install a council leader, a career lobbyist for property developers. That's not our verdict. That's a former Labour councillor's words. Affordable housing delivery is collapsing. Now Sadiq Khan is introducing this so-called developers charter to cut affordable homes from 35% to 20%. But handing, a gift, a bung to the developers that Labour claim that are standing up against. I saw the leader was actually out enjoying a beer with them just last night. And while Labour are failing residents, they're also falling apart. Across London, Labour councillors are walking away in frustration. Just last week, the Labour Mayor of Lambeth, the former Labour Mayor of Lambeth, joined the Liberal Democrats. We know there are people in this room that are having similar conversations tonight. As the only elected opposition in Southwark,
10 seconds to go.
to hold residents, stand up to this administration and make sure that we are standing up for residents' real rights. There's a real choice next May.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will now call on Councillor Stephanie Cram, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to raise a point of order. When you're a woman being shouted at by aggressive men, then you have the right to say how I feel.
Actually, this is to contribute to the debate.
Councillor Stephen Kang, that's it. Wow, that's okay. There's number. Is that nine? All right. May I call on Councillor Jason Ocheri, please?
Support for this motion. I once worked for Citizens UK. It was one of the first ever jobs I had, and I was a community organizer, fighting for the living wage of cleaners up and down London. And in that role, I'll draft letters and I'll meet with cleaners, and we'll go to places like Chelsea Football Club, the Foreign Commonwealth Office, Bupa Private Healthcare, and we would ask those cleaners to boldly put letters on the desks of ministers, of directors, of permanent secretaries, demanding for the real living wage to be paid to them. Now, some of these strategies were bold, but the cleaners were willing to take those risks even if their jobs were on the line, because they understood the importance of being paid fairly. We would often get responses back from permanent secretaries and ministers and even companies that will need to wait for the contractor to see out its course of the contract, and paying cleaners would create costs that were so exorbitant it wouldn't make much financial sense. Many of those cleaners were working 2 or 3 jobs, just like my parents did when they came from Ghana. They worked tirelessly, doing everything they could to pay rent and provide for their families. And I'm pleased that here in Southwark, we're protecting the rights of workers through the London Living Wage. We've taken a giant step forward in ensuring that over 400 organisations pay a London Living Wage, so that those who are like the cleaners I mentioned, not having to take on 2, 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. But we shouldn't just stop there, and I think we're all in agreement here that we can do more, faster, and further. And I implore the Cabinet to continue to uphold Labour values in ensuring that every decision that we make supports and empowers working families at every opportunity. And that means promoting the London Living Wage, like Councillor Batterson has mentioned, supporting positive employment practices across our borough, training enforcement teams, as Councillor Ennin has mentioned, and ensuring tenants know and can access their rights. Fair pay, secure homes, dignity at work, they shouldn't just be policies. They are the foundation of our society, the values of all its people, and hopefully we can all stand in agreement today, putting our party politics aside, in making sure that residents know their rights and their rights are delivered through our policies here in Southwark. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call on Councillor Gavin Edwards, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For full transparency, I'd like to start by saying that I'm an employee of the trade union Unison. With all the things that come from being in local politics and being a local councillor, the surgeries, the emails, the meetings, the leaflets, and all the door knocking, it's worth sometimes stepping back and restating very clearly why councillors in my own political group came into politics in the first place. The purpose of the Labour Party is to make life better for working people. That's the point. That's why the Employment Rights Bill is so emblematic of the real differences between the political parties in this country. It is legislation which fundamentally changes the balance of power between employers and workers in favour of working people. That's a real change to benefit millions of people up and down the country and thousands of people in this borough. It will ban the disgraceful practice of fire and rehire. It will give a right to guaranteed hours, getting rid of 0 hours contracts, which is a particular scourge in the social care sector. It will give a right to access to workplaces for trade unions, stopping union busting in its tracks. And it will deliver a fair pay agreement for 1.7 million adult social care workers. That is the biggest sectoral pay agreement ever created in the private sector in this country. This is what real radicalism looks like. Let's be clear, no other party in the mainstream would ever have brought forward this legislation. Not the Conservatives, not Reform, definitely not the Greens, and definitely not the Liberal Democrats. Several times Liberal Democrat councillors have stood up this evening and said, of course we back rights for working people. Of course we do. How would anybody say? You're not backing it. That's the problem. It's a Labour government that has come forward with this legislation that will change working people's lives in the teeth, often of opposition from MPs in your own political party, right? And as the councillors showed tonight, by talking about referring to them as a union, they're not a union. They're a private company. You don't know what a trade union is. So I am proud of the affiliated trade unions for pushing for the Employment Rights Bill. I'm proud of this council for backing the Employment Rights Bill. And I'm very, very proud of a Labour government for making it happen.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Jasmine Ali, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Southwark is now, I wanted to talk about children and young people's rights in the spirit of the theme. I wanted to announce that I have in my hands a draft copy of the Southwark School Standards Report, and I can give you a heads up that we are now 99% good and outstanding schools. What a journey, what a journey. And we started from joint second from the bottom in the league tables. And this is a transformation driven by our young people, our families, our brilliant school staff, and a decade of investment, of Labour investment and leadership. But we have challenges. We have to be honest, there is a post-16 problem. Many of our young people achieving high attainments at school, but not getting jobs, or stepping into a labour market that offers them insecure hours or low pay, or in some circumstances, unpaid experience. That is a betrayal of their effort and their potential. And it is even harsher for young people with special education needs and disabilities. They face additional barriers, as we know. Employers don't always understand their rights, failure to make reasonable adjustments, assumptions about what they can do instead of what they can do to support. And this is why the Employment Rights Bill and this motion matter for Southwark. The bill starts to shift the balance of power towards workers, especially young workers, by curbing exploitative 0 hours practices, strengthening protection from unfair dismissal and abusive fire and rehire, improving sick pay and family-friendly rights, requiring safer workplaces and action on harassment, which is vital for young people in hospitality, retail and the nighttime economy. For Southwark, this is not abstract. It backs in law the values we are already trying to live out locally. Post-COVID, you remember we launched the Youth New Deal, which really helped supporting young people when it was needed. This Labour legislation gives us a chance and an opportunity to improve on this. We must guarantee further education, training and employment opportunities for our young people when they leave our schools. And crucially, it means clear commitment to young people with SEND. working with employers to deliver reasonable adjustments as standard, not as a favour, creating accessible apprenticeships, support internship pathways, into council jobs and local industries, so that a diagnosis or a label never becomes a dead end, embedding our inclusion charter principles beyond the school gate and into the world of work. So tonight, in supporting this motion, Southwark Labour is making a clear promise. The success we built in our schools will be matched in our
Your
opportunities.
time is up.
Mr. Mayor, I just
Your
want to-
time is up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Councillor Pochia Mangigwe, please. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I stand before you as a councillor and a cabinet member of Southwark, who in their first, actually before she got elected, and in the first year of her election, went through homelessness due to my financial situation. When I was able to afford to find a house, it took me over a year to find housing due to the arbitrary bidding wars. Luckily, I now have my own space and I have a home. My reason for telling you this is simple. Although the opposition will have you believe that we don't care, or we are very far removed from the reality of what is going on with our residents, because we choose to promote and show hope to our residents that something is actually being done for them, I believe that we, on both sides of this chamber, are doing our very best to represent our residents. And I wanted our residents to know tonight that regardless of the theatrics that we do here in Council Assembly, we know what you are going through, not only through our knowledge of what we are doing, but through the experiences that we have, not just as councillors, but even before this. We are human beings going through the exact same thing that you are. And I say this because of the story that I have. Private renters, most of which are in my, not most of which are in my ward, but my ward is made up mostly of private renters, deserve to live free of fear of eviction and not retaining housing just because they have a couple £100 more or because they have a more secure job than others. They deserve the right to be free of these fears. This private renters bill is a step forward in the right direction, and I want our residents to know that yes, we know that there is more work to be done, but I want all of our residents to know that we are fighting for you and we will continue to fight for you because we know what you are going through. And thank you very much for the residents who vote for us because they trust us to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. We are reaching the end of this session. The theme debate ends at 8:45 p.m. We started at 7:30 p.m. and should have ended at 8:30, but we had a 15-minute adjournment. So that's why we had the extra 15 minutes. So thank you. Right. So I shall now ask Councillor Batterson to respond to the debate. You have 3 minutes in which to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me also pay thanks to our speakers from earlier on today, all speaking about the important work that they are doing with our residents, whether it be around the London Living Wage, Citizens Advice Southwark, making sure that everyone knows their rights and how to use them, and of course the TUC promoting union membership. Not just across the borough, but across the city and the country. Let me also thank all members for their contributions tonight, all coming from different angles, but all incredibly powerful. Let me respond directly to the opposition and their amendment specifically, which says that their amendment says that they will introduce stability and certainty for workers. I struggle to see how changing the legal requirement for employers to offer guaranteed hours to workers does that. It doesn't. Far too many people in our economy are on 0 hours contracts with no guarantees of their hours, even on the day itself. And this is absolutely one of the key parts of this employment rights bill. And I was relieved and glad to see the Labour government refuse the amendments that came back from the Lords and take this through in its entirety. I also find it almost laughable to hear the opposition comparing this administration to some of their Liberal Democrat ran councils. Earlier on today, Richmond Lib Dem run council was called out because not a single affordable home had been started there between April and September this year. So what is the comparison that they make between us and them? There isn't one. We are leading the way in the living wage movement, but we know there is more that we need to do here. And so this is absolutely not the end of the journey. Their amendment also talks about landmark advances in civil liberties. What are they? There's no examples. Why can't they reference them in their amendment? It's all fluffy words. They don't have the answers to the problems that and the challenges that local authorities face and that we face here in this borough. We know far too many people still face instability at work and uncertainty at home. That's why we're bringing forward, the government are bringing forward the Renters' Rights Act and the Employment Rights Bill, and that's why they're so desperately needed. These are the changes that come with a Labour government, and it's why people across Southwark are better off with a Labour council.
Thank you. I shall now move on to vote on Amendment A. Those in favour of Amendment A?
Nine, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Those against?
$43, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
4, Mr. Mayor.
The motion is lost. Thank you. I shall now move on to the vote on the substantive or the amendment. Yes, sorry, the amendment. Yeah, well, what's, yeah. I shall now move on to the amendment. Those in favor? Yeah, those in favor of the substantive, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I shall now move on to the vote on the substantive. Yeah, that was my first place. Those in favor of the substantive motion, please up with your hand.
$47, Mr. Mayor.
47. And those against?
None, Mr. Mayor.
And abstentions?
9, Mr. Mayor.
The substantive motion is carried. It is now time for the rest of the deputations part of the program motion. Members agreed to hear one further deputation from Living Bankside. Can officers please bring forward the deputation? Will the deputation spokesperson please address the meeting, and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you for having us. I'm Mehmet Dienli, a local resident from a member of the team of Living Bankside.
Hello, my name is Rabba. I'm also part of the team for Living Bankside, and I'm a local resident as well.
We are proud to be a partner and supporter of Southwark Council. We are passionate about the objectives of the council. We raise this issue on behalf of hundreds of residents who suffer from the impact of antisocial behaviour and crime due to the improper management of licensed venues and a lack of appropriate enforcement. We request that Southwark Council employs greater measures to tackle the detrimental effects from the saturation of licensed venues in the borough and Bankside Cumulative Impact Area, CIA, and that the council works with residents in dealing with this and other matters. We note that there are many kind, caring and collaborative councillors and council officers. With regards to ASB and crime, we are particularly concerned about late night noise nuisance, public urination, defecation and vomiting, litter, late night vehicular pollution from patrons, the use of cannabis, vandalism, theft and robbery, brawls, noise nuisance from servicing early in the morning, overflowing bins, increase in rodents and pests, and its severe detrimental impact on local residents, which includes impact on sleep, mental and physical health, children's exposure to inappropriate and harmful behavior, loss of property and damage to property, increased risk to safety, increased fear in relation to safety, including vulnerable persons, women, and those from minority backgrounds, impact on health and safety. There's a lack of support from the council, a lack of sincere and genuine collaboration. The voices of residents are repeatedly disregarded and dismissed, and this must change. Southwark Council's residents' involvement and engagement strategy places a strong emphasis on resident-led decision-making and empowering residents to shape improvements in their neighbourhood. We would like to see residents having a greater role in decision-making and shaping their neighbourhood. We would welcome a meeting with the relevant cabinet member. Thank you very much.
Do you have a question for the leader or relevant cabinet member?
Yes. Could the council commit to working with us and others in developing a better hyperlocal strategy to tackle ASB and crime?
Can the cabinet member respond?
So I want to start off by saying thank you for your deputation today, and it's definitely a key priority for us and this council assembly to hear from residents, and it's one of the most important things in my mind for sure. We understand the impact of antisocial behaviour and crime, and you've eloquently outlined the risk to property, personal safety and well-being, including amongst vulnerable people, women and girls and other minoritized communities. But these concerns have been raised with us before, and we've taken action. We've invested 3 million in upgrading our CCTV cameras and committed to working with residents in those areas and businesses. In addition to that, we've increased street lighting, but most importantly, around violence against women and girls, what we've done is improved our community engagement, listening to residents, actually designing out crime in those areas. We've also strengthened the nighttime safety infrastructure through our safe haven schemes, 31 venues currently operating, and there are more to follow with training and sign-ups. We've engaged with local businesses in hotspot areas, and we've engaged with a further 76 residents around our nighttime safety charter. In addition to that, this August, we launched our nighttime uniform presence, and that offers additional 450 50 hours to patrol areas like Borough and Bankside. What's really stood out to me with your deputation is that you really want to work with us, and we made a commitment to that. We've introduced 10 neighbourhood areas where it's an opportunity for businesses, residents, as well as VCSs to sit together, to have conversations about the ways in which we can improve licensing on our area. We've recently had our statement of our licensing statement policy introduced, which I know that Live in Bankside have contributed to. Further to that, I'm happy to meet you after this meeting to look at specific areas in which you want additional resource to be deployed. Don't forget that we have the community cumulative impact areas where we actually review this every 3 years. And that's looking at ASB data, that's looking at hospital admissions, and we also work really, really closely with the police. What we want to do is make sure that the police, as well as residents, as well as people from our licensing team, can actually hear what you've got to say, but most importantly, for you to feel empowered and to feel that your voice has been listened to. I'll continue to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now thank the deputation for attending this evening. Officer will escort the deputation to the public sitting area if you wish to listen to the debate. We will now consider a late question from Councillor Chamberlain. Do you have a supplemental question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. So I thank the leader. And I know that you got elected on a mandate to have a zero tolerance towards landlords breaking the rules. So either that's a promise that's now been broken, or you're making an exception for a Labour Chancellor. Which is it? And will you promise the tenants in question that they will get the £38,000 of rent rebate that they are entitled to from the Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chamberlain, for your supplementary question. I think I accept it as a supplementary question, which simply reiterates the first question. We have been very clear as a council how we approach selective licensing in the borough, and that we become aware of a property. We write to the landlord in 21 days to ensure they comply with what they need to do. We have treated the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, just like any other resident in this borough and any other landlord, and we will continue to do the same if properties become aware to us.
Thank you. We shall now consider members' questions. As per the program motion, we only have 30 minutes for questions. So members should ensure that their supplementary questions are genuine questions rather than speeches, please. Councillor Kisanda Brown, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. I'd like to draw attention to something in the ward of South Bermondsey, the ward I represent, which I think a lot of members here are very proud of, which is Appleby Blue. State of the art. Yeah, that deserves a clap. That deserves a clap. State-of-the-art homes for elderly people, which recently won the Sterling Prize, which is pretty much the best possible prize for architecture in the business. So very proud of that. And I would encourage everyone here to go on a tour if you can. Come and speak to me and I can help set that up.
Councillor
Anyway,
Brown,
to the question, back to the question. I do think it deserved some recognition because it really is
Brown,
amazing.
question, please.
The leader join me in congratulating the council and everyone involved on the success of these high quality homes for older people.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Brown, for your supplementary. I'm extraordinarily proud to have such high quality social housing for older people in our borough. And I'm absolutely delighted they've been awarded this prestigious award. I'm also delighted and honoured that I got the opportunity to visit shortly after being elected the leader and to go on a tour. I have to say, it was really hard to leave. If anyone hasn't been, I would really strongly recommend that you go for a tour. I've been lucky enough to go several times since. That's because they have such an amazing community space within that building, which several of our voluntary sector and community groups are also using at the moment. So I feel like around the room, we will all get the opportunity to go if you haven't been before. I would also just like to touch upon some of the other stuff we're doing to support older people in the borough. Councillor officers are in discussions now with United St Saviour's and Southwark Charities about what next and what future development we can have following the success of Appleby Blue. Councillor Sam Dalton has been working on the older people's housing strategy. Councillor Evelyn Akoto, who can't be here tonight, launched an update to our age-friendly borough strategy at the last cabinet meeting, ensuring we embed an age-friendly approach into all of our decision-making. Councillor Steph Cryan and officers have been working extraordinarily hard, encouraging older residents to sign up to pension credit if they're entitled to. And finally, I was delighted to attend the launch of the new flexi-care model at TSC2 House yesterday and to hear from residents about how it's changing their lives and creating a community.
Thank you. Councillor Victor Chamberlain, please, do you have a supplemental question?
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with all due respect, this doesn't actually answer the question, but what it does expose is that no cabinet member was over the detail of the major works programmes and the scandals that followed. Is it any wonder then that after 15 years of this failed administration, that it's only now trying to become a good landlord?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chamberlain, for your supplementary. It doesn't do what you say it does. What it does suggest is that we have been acutely aware of failings in terms of both contract management and contract design. That is what the key findings were from the Overview and Scrutiny Commission's review of both the internal review and the external review. As you set out in your original question, the question you ask is one about contract management. That is why we have been so clear about the need to improve contract management as part of the whole council's work, but particularly for the housing department. You might not like it, but the Good Landlord Plan sets out a clear direction for our housing department, and our administration is absolutely analysing that progress day by day and the improvements that we are making to tenants and landlords.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Foster, do you have a supplemental question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. I thank the leader for her response. I welcome the commitments that the council has made around the divestment of the Southwark Pension Fund from conflict and genocide in response to the genocide in Israel that's being supported by the Labour government. I was hoping that a timeline could be provided for when the 4 actions announced in September would be taken. The answer given to me references updates coming in December and March. Is there a timeline for when they will be completed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Foster. I'm afraid I do challenge your statement about the Labour government's position. But I do also want to provide you with further information in terms of your supplementary question. I think it's very clear to say that we've made 4 very, very clear commitments in terms of what we want to do with our pension fund. And we've done that because we've listened to the calls of our residents across the borough and their real concerns about the fact that we could be investing our pension fund in genocide and conflict. But I'm not going to pretend that the progress is going to be really quick on this. In some of the most difficult areas around pool funding and the London Collective Vehicle, we need to bring other local authorities with us. So I will be very happy to be as transparent as I can, but the first call of action is for everyone in this room to encourage other London local government to join us. I am delighted that Hackney has followed suit, and I'm hearing from other Labour authorities that they are hoping to too. But to get the progress we all want on this, it's important that we are all advocates in this space and that we make the case to have those pooled funds addressed. On the point about the UN Genocide Convention, it is being tabled at the next Pension Advisory Panel meeting in December, and I'm very happy to come back to this meeting and in other forms to keep people abreast of the issues.
Thank you. Councillor Gavin Edwards, please. Do you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, does the leader agree with me that trade union membership, real trade unions mind, not random organisations who put the word union in their name, that trade union membership is a vital pillar for a thriving democracy and essential for improving the rights of working class people in our borough?
Thank you, Councillor Edwards, for your supplementary. I absolutely agree with you and believe in the real definition of a trade union. As a member of Unison myself, and have been since I was 17 years old, it is something that I think is absolutely essential to every resident in our borough. I'm particularly proud of the work that Councillor Batterson has been doing on Know Your Worth and Know Your Rights, and ensuring that we are communicating with our residents about the benefits of being a union membership, and ensuring that the online complaint around the employment right makes really clear what support is available to those who experience issues in the workplace.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Bentley, please. Do you have a supplemental question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I think the £90 million question is, has there been any result from this lobbying, multiple briefings and organised meetings that will actually bring about a change to these savage cuts that we're expecting here in Southwark and in inner London? Because we all know that our residents and our communities just can't take what's coming down the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your supplementary. when I first became leader, I was very clear to realise that my priority had to be making the case for our residents in the fair funding consultation. Since being leader, I have been interviewed by the BBC on the issue. I have met with the local government minister. I have met with Steve Reed. I have met with Sadiq Khan. In all of those cases, I've been making the strongest possible case for our residents to ensure that the exceptional high housing costs that we suffer from and our residents suffer from in this borough are heard at the centre of government. I will update as soon as I hear back from the government, but which I suspect will be a public announcement so everyone will be able to access it. But what I can say is I'm extraordinarily proud that our Labour MPs in this area have joined us in this fight and have taken forward really positively and really strongly to government what needs to change.
Thank you. Councillor Andy Simmons, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. I'd like to thank the leader for her answer. Can the leader update me on our plans to ensure older people can also claim fuel payments this winter, please?
Thank you, Councillor Simmons, for your update. The government's re-evaluation of their position means that 9 million pensioners will now be eligible for winter fuel payments. The council will continue our successful outreach campaigns for helping older people, and we will be continuing to run those campaigns through and past the winter to ensure as many older people benefit.
Thank you. Councillor Jane Salmon, do you have a supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I do. And I'd like to thank the leader for the answer to Councillor Foster's question and just add another question as well. What can we do to put pressure on the government to be doing the same, divesting, and because this is a horrific genocide, and I know time will ease some of the members, but not for the people over there, it won't. So what can we do to make sure that going forward, the government also takes a look at where their investments are, if all councils could get together? Thank you.
Thank you for your supplementary. Just to return back to my answer to the other supplementary, I think we are duty bound to do everything we can to bring other local authorities with us. I am conscious that there are Liberal Democrat councils in London, which I am sure that you will have very strong links to. So I would appeal to you to ensure that your local authorities, both in London and across the country, are taking the same decisions, because collectively we can then come together to put that to government too.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Ucheri, do you have a supplementary question, please?
So I do, and I'd like to thank the leader for the answer that she's given. It was great to see the leader flying the flag for Southwark in Parliament at the Housing Select Committee alongside various other housing partners. It'd be good to get an update from the leader as to how that went, and more specifically what she thinks we can be doing more here in Southwark to ensure that the council homes that we do have that are lived in by tenants and leaseholders are improved as best as possible.
Thank you for your supplementary. So, as you said, last month, I was invited to provide evidence to the Housing, Communities and Local Government Select Committee. To some extent, it was quite frustrating to have to share a panel with some housing associations who seemed very, very focused on themselves rather than the rights of our residents. But at that committee, I had the opportunity to raise again that our council housing finances are broken. The way in which they were designed in their ring-fenced nature means that after spiralling inflation and interest rates, as well as the extra burdens put on us as a council landlord to deliver on fire safety risk and damp and mould, all things that we absolutely should be doing but have come with no extra money, means that we are at breaking point. And that's not just us. That is council landlords across the country, which is why I'm so proud that over 100 council landlords have come together to continue the campaign to secure the future of council housing. The campaign has a lot planned in the year ahead. We had commitment from the Housing and Planning Minister, Matthew Pennycook, that he would meet with us in the next few months to talk about what more needed to be done on housing finance. And we're planning a third summit later in the year in which we will be focusing on what the Treasury needs to do to actually rebalance our books and ensure we can make the investment in our ageing stock and homes that our residents live in, but also so that we can get much more substantial council homes building off the ground again.
Thank you. Councillor Maria Linford Hall is absent. So I will now call on Councillor Sabina Emmanuel. Do you have a supplemental question?
Yes, I do, Ms. Mayor. Will the cabinet member join me in congratulating Southwark officers and our colleagues across London for their work to promote London's Living Wage Week?
Thank you, and thank you for your supplementary. Since 2022, the number of London Living Wage accredited employers in our borough has nearly doubled, reaching over 452. That's because of the work of the Living Wage Unit here, which is set to secure fair pay for workers across the borough. In July, we welcomed the first living wage building to the borough. All direct employees at the building and its suppliers and contractors have been agreed to pay the minimum amount of staff to address in-work poverty in our borough. Paying the London living wage is good for business too. It improves talent attraction, retention, productivity, motivation, and fundamentally increases the company's ability to secure contracts and funding. So what I want to do is congratulate our officers at Southwark Council, our Cabinet Member John Batterson, for the work that's been undertaken, and recognise that the Council won Industry Champion and James Reed, Senior Programme Officer, won Advocate of the Year at the Living Wage Champion Awards earlier this year.
One more. Thank you. I now call on Councillor Nick Johnson. Do you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. I have more than 7 seconds to ask it. I'd like to thank Councillor King for her response to my question regarding the proposed Digital ID Act. I note that it was the result of a parliamentary petition of 1 million signatures, and I wondered if you, as the leader of the council, could understand or even agree with any of the concerns that those 1 million people had regarding the proposed act.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I missed the middle of the question cut out on the microphone. Could you just repeat the question?
That was the best bit.
I hope so.
I will recap. Thank you for your response regarding the Digital ID Act. I note that it was the result of a 1 million signature parliamentary petition. And my question was, do you understand or even agree with any of the concerns of those 1 million people?
Supplementary. I think it's really important to say that I accept that there are a lot of concerns about the introduction of this scheme, both across the country and within the borough. And I think it's important that I hear all of those and I take them on board in terms of actually analysing my position. But what I really feel at the moment is I need the detail to be able to do that. So I accept concerns, but until there is the detail that is available on how the scheme will be delivered and what those potential digital exclusions may look like and what measures we can put in place to address them, I will hold my fire. So once I've had those updates, I'm very happy to be asked at the next council assembly.
Thank you. We have now come to the end of 15 minutes allocated to questions to the leader. So we now move on to questions to the cabinet members. So I will start with Councillor Richard Livingston. Do you have a supplemental question, please?
I thought Councillor Cumbo might be before me, but yes, first of all, I wanted to thank Councillor McCash for his response to my question. I note that the Southwark Liberal Democrats have recently posted a video on Instagram suggesting that the Section 106 payments from developments being used to fund the Baker Loop bus should instead be unlawfully spent on non-transport projects. Do you think this is a wise idea?
Thank you very much, Councillor Livingston. First, can I share your excitement at the Baker Loop bus, which is whizzing down the Old Kent Road, bright brown, sort of like a log flume at Thorpe Park, with all the fun that comes with that. I share Councillor Livingston's outrage at this suggestion from the Southwark Liberal Democrats. Our planning system is there in place to make sure that there are restrictions and constraints on development. We want development to happen, we want it to serve the community, and we have rules in place to make sure that there's adequate transport provision. Those rules are in place for a good reason. It's not pocket money to spend on whatever we like. It's there for a reason, and the Old Kent Road redevelopment will only be possible if we have adequate transport links. Bakerloo bus is a stopgap in doing that until we get that long-sought Bakerloo line extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bethan Roberts, do you have a supplementary question, please?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank the Cabinet member for his response and agree with him about the benefits that repairs action days make to our residents. But if he could just outline what else the council is doing to ensure that we are a good landlord.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for the supplementary questions. Our Good Landlord Plan sets out our commitment to ensuring that we put our tenants and leaseholder at the heart of what we do. And in addition to what you've mentioned, which is the repairs action day, it's been going on for a year now, very successful, bringing lots of lots of officers on an estate and tackling issues at the source at the earliest opportunity possible. We've also recently started our housing surgery, which will ensure that on an estate, at a ward across Southwark, that there are housing officers addressing issues and where residents can drop by and raise issues itself. And I'm fairly confident that that would ensure that tenants and leaseholders are able to get their issues addressed at the earliest opportunities. In addition to that, we also became the first, as far as I'm concerned, the first local authority in the country to actually put online and have available for our leaseholders that opportunity to see an itemized billing of their leaseholder charges itself. And that's part of our transparency with our leaseholders to ensure that actually we continue to put them at the heart of what we do. Recently also, we've also put up online to ensure that our performance tracking process in terms of our commitment on our Good Landlord Plan, that actually residents and leaseholders can go online and be able to track our performance quarterly and be able to hold us account. So Councillor Roberts, in many ways, we are already now ensuring that residents and tenants and leaseholders are put at the heart of what we do. But looking forward into the future, I'm also looking forward to more additional ways which will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Susanna Bacho? Do you have a supplemental question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. October was a wonderful month across Southwark, filled with music, art, storytelling, reflection during our Black History Month celebration, from the community exhibition and youth program to churches gathering and performance in our liberty and our schools. We saw the true vibrance of Black culture shining. Can the Cabinet member tell us how Council supported Black History Month event across Southwark, having helped celebrate and showcase the richness of the borough, Black heritage, culture and inspiration, young people to celebrate the every contribution of our Black residents across Southwark this year? Thank you.
I'd like to thank Councillor Bacher for her supplemental question. And I absolutely agree that Black History Month was an absolute celebration of the diversity of our borough and the contributions and the richness that our Black communities bring to us here in Southwark. And I think now more than ever, it is really important that we celebrate this, because we all know that there are those out there who seek to divide us, who have a rhetoric of hate around this, and we need to stand firm and support those who make such a vital contribution to Southwark, that make it the rich borough that it is. We will not let them succeed. We will continue to support Black History Month. We will continue to support our Black communities. And I absolutely look forward to absolutely wonderful events again this time next year.
Thank you. I'll now call on Councillor Adam Hood. Do you have a supplemental question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I note the Cabinet member's response and that it's missing the information that I asked for regarding the amount of money that had been spent on these contractors. Could the cabinet member commit to getting me that information and also advise me what role these contractors had in the lower road scheme?
So as I've explained in the answer already, the low performing KPIs were misreporting. So the KPIs were not in fact low performing. It was simply that the contractors were not registering the correct information. That has now been rectified and those KPIs have been addressed. I assumed that given, I appreciate you weren't to know that, that was a mistake on the part of the contractors. I assume given that you were no longer interested in how much public money is being spent on contractors who were not meeting their KPIs because those contractors were meeting their KPIs. But I'm very happy to dig it out and find out how much money is spending on the contractors who are meeting their KPIs, which is in fact the contractors who we are contracting to do this work. Thank you.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Graham now? Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm glad that we agree then how important it is to involve local communities in designing low traffic neighbourhoods. And I'm looking forward to the West Square meeting. I hope I'll be getting an invitation. I wondered if there are any plans to further collaborate with Lambeth on any forthcoming low traffic neighbourhood schemes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Neil. So I was actually, I met with the cabinet member, my equivalent in Lambeth just today. I know that you've expressed, you and your colleague, Councillor Linford Hall, have expressed concerns about the engagement with the residents on this particular scheme, a Lambeth Head scheme, but a scheme that we have been working with them on. As a result, the scheme has now been paused. They're going to take some time. We're going to make sure we go back and consult with the residents because you're absolutely right. It is important that we engage their residents on these important transport schemes. They can sometimes be divisive, but we always believe that if we stick by our principles and our strategy, we can deliver a scheme that works for everyone. But you're right, that does involve bringing residents along. So I'm in contact with Lambeth. At the moment, the scheme is paused while they're looking at things again, but I will absolutely ensure that when the scheme does resume at a time yet to be determined, you will be involved and so will the residents you represent.
Thank you. Councillor Joseph Vambi, do you have a supplementary question? You send his apology.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Okay. Councillor David Patton, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And thank you to Councillor Ennin for her written response. What type of projects will be funded by our new neighbourhoods initiative, including in my ward, Rye Lane? How can residents get involved?
I've touched it. No, make me laugh. I've got time. I'd like to start off by recognising the fantastic work that has taken place with the launch of the new neighbourhood forums. This has been an opportunity for residents to engage with neighbourhood champions and work with our new neighbourhood coordinators who have been listening to what residents have prioritised and saying what things they would like to see us fund. At the moment, we've moved our neighbourhood fund and CDS to a neighbourhoods grant, which has led to a single integrated way of applying for funding. What we've seen is an increase in the amount of applications, which has been 886 applications. In regards to the types of projects that have been requested for funding, we've seen projects around family spaces in Peckham. We've also had a request around disability learning projects, and we will continue to support projects that encourage residents to become more involved in creating safer street schemes. One of the key things that has come up throughout each of the neighbourhood forums is thematic priorities that residents would like us to look at. The top three have been around community safety, have been around funding and making sure there's clear opportunities to speak, but also wanting to have better contact with senior officers within the council. We've made a clear commitment that that will happen. As I said in my previous answer, our commitment and continued investment is to make sure that we listen to the priorities our residents talk to us about, but we recognise in each of our 10 neighbourhoods that will be distinctly different. one of the things that has really stood out for me has been the targeted engagement of our neighbourhood coordinators. I received some positive feedback from residents in the Rotherhithe area in particular, where they talked about an event where young people and voluntary sector organisations came together to speak about their priorities in the area. Similarly, we expect to see similar projects in the White Lane area. We recognise that we have a really vibrant young community and we want to stimulate their engagement in any way that we can. And as you know, last week we attended a TRA meeting where residents spoke to us about lighting, spoke to us about better youth opportunities, and we've made a clear commitment that that will be prioritised on our agenda for the neighbourhoods forum. In addition to that, the other thing that has really been crucial is our businesses. The Peckham Business Forum has made it clear to us that they want to be included in conversations around neighbourhoods. They want to have greater relationships, not only with the cabinet member, but elected members and the VCSs. And I believe that through that neighbourhoods forum, we can deliver on our vision of participatory decision-making, but most importantly, to empower people to be involved in that conversation. Towards the end of the year, we'll definitely be making announcements about how we will be investing that money. And I'm really proud to support the work of the Neighbourhoods Forum, which is really a true representation for me of people power. It's not about us sitting at the top making decisions, but it's making sure that residents have a choice, an opportunity to be involved in conversations. And it's about making sure that our neighbourhoods are not only about residents, but they're about the wider community, which is our voluntary sector community organisations, our business sectors, and also other partners, including the police. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Charlie Smith? Do you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do have a supplementary question, but before I do, can I just wish everyone a very happy Christmas, because I won't see you till the new year. And just to let you know, my collar size is 17 and my jumper size is extra large, and I've got plenty of socks. I don't need any more. Now, my supplementary question, thank you very much for a very detailed answer to my question. My supplementary is, what benefits can pupils and students expect to see from the expansion of the Charter East School in my ward, that is Goose Green? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, for your supplemental question. Well, you know that we formally opened the school along with yourself and MP Helen Hayes in 2018, and that was really amazing. And then, of course, there was the chateau. Only in Dulwich you will have a chateau, and that to actually get that sorted out and maintain it proved very difficult. In fact, it saw a lot of builders off because obviously we had the COVID, and then a lot of builders said the materials were just so expensive. They wanted more millions. Anyway, we got there, and just 2 weeks ago, basically we had the Education Secretary came down, everyone came down to celebrate the opening, and what a beautiful restoration of that chateau. And how will it benefit? Well, there are much larger learning spaces, and we've got music rooms, we've got a large sixth form area, and last but not least, we've got autism spectrum disorder resource for up to 25 students. And obviously, those who have been following what we've been doing in the special education needs and disability revolution will know that that is a vision, isn't it? Where you have children and young people with special education needs based in fantastic mainstream settings. So I think that's who it will benefit really. And, we're really excited about it. And thank you for your support of that as ward councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. The time for members' questions has now come to an end. We will now be moving on to members' motions. The time for members' motions, So demanding, motion one, demanding real fairer funding for Southwark. So, Councillor Victor Timblin to move motion one. You have 5 minutes to speak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2022, this council rightly condemned the Conservatives for their assault on local government, for wrecking services and for hollowing out councils like ours. The motion called for a general election to bring change. Well, Mr. Mayor, we've had that election, but what's changed? In fact, nothing has changed. It's actually now worse. We have a Labour government delivering Tory austerity 2.0, and it's going to hit Southwark hardest. Southwark faces a £90 million black hole over the next 3 years. That's the biggest financial gap this council has ever faced. Even worse than the previous Tory governments. Over the next 3 years, Labour's cuts will dwarf anything we've seen before. And this so-called fair funding review isn't fair at all. It's the perfect storm designed to punish places like Southwark and to level down London. Inner London councils are set to lose almost 30% of their grant income, and Southwark alone faces a 14% cut in our overall spending power. This is the third worst hit borough in the whole of the capital. This didn't happen by mistake. It's a calculated choice by Labour ministers to turn their back on the likes of Southwark and London. The Labour government has ignored housing costs in deprivation measures and designed a formula that distinctly punishes densely populated and diverse communities like ours. We've been told time and again that this administration will hold Labour's feet to the fire. But where is that fire now? All we've seen is spin and excuses for your government. Under the Tories, Labour councillors were rightly furious. They demanded the cuts were reversed and they called for a general election to even things up and to back Southwark. Now with funding under an even worse attack, will they do the same? Or are they only outraged when it's politically convenient, Mr. Mayor? Because let's be clear, what we're looking on tonight is whether or not you support Tory austerity 2.0, plain and simple. To Labour councillors opposite, is this really what you got into government for, into local government for? Just think about that for a minute. Because if you stay silent while services for your residents are cut and slashed and council jobs are lost, is that what Labour values are meant to be? Are you going to defend a government that's punishing Southwark for its deprivation, for its diversity and for its density? And I believe that there were, no, maybe not now, Labour candidates standing in May's elections in the public gallery. Is this really what they want to stand for in May? Are they really going to go and knock on doors and tell residents that they're proud to back a government cutting £90 million from their council and cutting council jobs? My advice to them is do not join a sinking ship. People expected better from this government when they voted for change. Yet somehow Labour have managed to make things even worse and deliver the worst sort of change. Let's not forget that the former deputy leader of Southwark Labour and the current Labour MP for Peckham are now government ministers. They sit in the very department that's designing these cuts. So either your government is not listening to you or you're making an extremely feeble case. We wrote to the leader of the council in July offering to work together on a cross-party basis to try and address this really damaging situation. We didn't even get a reply from the leader. So we wrote again last month, asking them to sign a letter that we've drafted to the Secretary of State, and still we've had radio silence. That is not leadership from this administration. It's ducking responsibility, and it's certainly not standing up for the residents who've elected you. Liberal Democrats will take the fight to government, any government, when Southwark is under attack. We've drafted and published a letter to the Secretary of State that makes the case for Southwark and highlights these disastrous impact that they would have on our borough. And we call on every councillor here tonight to back our motion, to demand that this administration sign that letter to the Secretary of State. Because it's not about party politics, it's about fairness for our residents. Because when London succeeds, the rest of the UK will succeed. But levelling down London only hurts everyone in this country. We need to grow the size of the local government pie, not make councils fight over ever smaller slices. That's a Tory approach, not Labour's. Or at least I thought it was. So tonight, please stand up for Southwark and fight for the residents that elected you. Don't just blindly defend your party line. On this side of the chamber, we're clear. Liberal Democrats will always stand up for Southwark, and we're not afraid to ruffle a few feathers to do it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I now call Councillor Richard Bentley to second motion 1. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When discussing large numbers like £90 million of cuts, it can be hard to imagine what this will actually mean to our individual constituents and our communities. But this is austerity on steroids that your Labour colleagues in Westminster are forcing on our residents. That £90 million black hole will create so much harm to every single service that's already stretched here. That's housing, adult and children's social care, leisure, the environment. And we know it's going to hurt the most vulnerable and those who rely on public services the most. One particular example is thinking about our temporary accommodation costs. You know this is one of our statutory duties and one of the most important things that we do as an organisation. Those proposed Labour cuts, if reversed, could fund our temporary accommodation needs for over 3 years. It feels to me, and so many others, not just here, but also out on the streets, that this Labour administration has failed to stand up to your colleagues in Westminster and back our residents, particularly on calls to remove the 2-child benefit cap. This council will be faced with difficult choices. Will our elderly and vulnerable residents be forced to endure worsening social care as the council can no longer afford to fund it properly? Will services be outsourced to the lowest bidder, irrespective of quality? Will bin collections be reduced? Will street lighting continue to degrade and pavements be left unrepaired? Whichever route the council takes to save money, it's clear residents will suffer the impact. When Southwark residents voted last year in the general election, many put their faith in Labour, some for the first time. They were told that Labour would bring a fresh start, gone were the days of austerity and cronyism, of chaos, of power not being held to account, of infighting and backstabbing. Well, I think we all know that that's not been a change. The only change Labour has delivered is the same style of austerity, but now it's just wearing a red rosette. Your Chancellor, who has been mentioned here tonight already, is clearly out of her depth. She can't manage her own responsibilities, let alone the nation's finances. And your Prime Minister has zero vision. And you know it's not just me who's saying that. Labour used to be accused of tax and spend, but now the approach seems to be tax and cut. It makes no sense. What a disaster they are making of the economy. Zero growth means less money for public services, it's economically illiterate, it'll hurt the poorest in our community, in our capital hardest. It's a complete disaster, and you should join us in condemning it.
Thank you. There is one amendment to the motion. Councillor Esme Hicks to move amendment B. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of Council Assembly, I speak today to move this amendment to the motion from Councillor Chamberlain. While the original motion rightly highlights the current challenges we face, this amendment provides the crucial context required for an honest debate missing from the original motion. The financial precarity facing local government today is not an accident. It's the direct calculated legacy of over a decade of brutal cuts. In 2010, the Conservative and Liberal Democrat coalition government triggered a policy of austerity that saw real-term central government grants slashed by as much as 40% across the country in the decade that followed. For councils like ours, this meant that our core spending power fell dramatically, forcing us to cut services, deplete reserves, and shift the financial burden onto residents through increased council tax. This was not a mistake by those governments, it was a choice that selectively targeted poorer areas who were historically more reliant on central grants, and systematically hollowed out preventative quality of life services like libraries and youth centres, services that are essential for strong communities. Councillor Tester said earlier this evening that austerity doesn't matter anymore. Well, I'm not surprised she would seek to dismiss it, given the impact her party's central role in it. But here in Southwark, this Labour administration refused to accept that destruction. We protected our libraries, we brought our leisure centres back in-house, and we continue to invest in the services that define our borough and support our residents. We proved that fiscal responsibility does not have to mean a failure of political resolve. We have year after year delivered balanced budgets, even in the face of the economic chaos unleashed by recent national events. Now we face the next chapter. Thanks to the work started by the Liberal Democrats and the coalition government in Westminster, the funding system remains fundamentally broken, a dysfunctional patchwork that forces us to spend an ever-growing share of our income on statutory services, often at the expense of everything else. That is why this amendment also sets out our firm path for the future. First, we recognise that this funding crisis is national, structural and demands fundamental reform, which we welcome the new Labour government is now undertaking. Second, we welcome this council's proactive and leading role in demanding that reform, whether through engaging with government ministers or by spearheading the Inner London Borough's campaign for fairer funding alongside London councils. And finally, we resolve to continue that relentless pressure. We will continue to work with our local MPs and our regional partners to ensure that as funding reform finally arrives, Southwark receives the fair settlement it deserves. I'm afraid that supporting the Liberal Democrat motion put forward here today would be like taking the advice of the arsonist in putting out the fire that they started. This amendment is a statement of fact, a testament to the sound financial management of Southwark Labour and a roadmap for delivering real, sustainable, fairer funding. I urge Council Assembly to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Winfield to second Amendment B. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say that this motion on fairer funding echoes the previous motion that we had on the theme debate. And I say that because it follows in the footsteps of the excellent speeches from Councillor Batterson and Councillor Edwards on this subject. Because what is really fairer is what strikes at the heart of the difference between us and the other political parties in this borough. What the Liberal Democrats consider fairer when in power compared to Labour is totally different. The Lib Dem and Tory response to the economic crisis was to usher in the age of austerity and cause the current cost of living crisis. The coalition government agreed a cuts programme of £110 billion in public spending. I didn't see the Southwark Liberal Democrats standing up for Southwark residents then. But where these cuts applied equally across the country? No, they weren't. They were primarily on Labour areas, so that the net effect was the richest 10% of the population was excluded from the cuts altogether. And how did these cuts manifest themselves? The Welfare Reform Act of 2012, which introduced the benefits cap, reduced the annual rates of increase in benefits to 1% maximum, introduced the dreadful bedroom tax, which reduced weekly incomes by £22, with over 2/3 affected being disabled. And if that wasn't enough, it increased the number of children living in poverty by over 600,000. That's what the Liberal Democrats deliver in power. Now contrast that with what Labour does here in Southwark. We have supported over 100,000 residents struggling to pay their bills through the Cost of Living Fund, which has provided over £53 million to local families. We have also provided £50 million to our council tax reduction scheme to help those most in need. We are now the 8th lowest council tax in London out of 32 boroughs. But we are doing more. We're building more affordable homes and social rent homes than any other authority, setting decent standards for private landlords to help private renters, as we heard before, lifting 7,000 working people out of poverty pay, having 30 Green Flag awards for our parks and the 3rd best borough in the country for climate action. So when we are attacked on our record from all sides, left, right and centre, I say we must be doing the right thing, and particularly under Councillor King's leadership. I am proud of this council's record, proud to advocate it, proud to defend it, and proud to stand by it in comparison of any other. That's based on our fairer values that Southwark residents—
Time up. Time up. Time up. I've got a list of councillors who would like to speak to the motion. So I'll call first Councillor Cassandra Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome the amendment to this motion, which recognises the effort of this council's leadership in pushing for fair funding. I'd like to add my voice to these calls. While it's nice to know that my hometown of Doncaster might get a bit more money, the government must recognise the unique needs of London and ensure fairer funding urgently for our residents in Southwark. And that's so we can do more of the things that this council has already prioritised and wants to continue prioritising. like building more council homes, which despite the insane funding pressures, we are still doing. So I don't know what Councillor Tester was on about earlier when she said this council hasn't laid a brick this year. Just this September, we finished building 49 brand new council homes on the Rennie estate in my ward. And some of us in this room went to visit the residents in their new homes a couple of weeks ago. And it was great to see so many local people moving in from overcrowded homes on the Rennie estate. And this is thanks to the Southwark Labour local letting scheme. So yes, fair funding is important, but fair policies that go along with that funding are just as important too. Now, it's nice to see the Liberal Democrats calling for fair funding, like us, but what would they spend it on? It wouldn't be council housing benefiting more residents in South Bermondsey. In fact, at the last Overview and Scrutiny Commission, Liberal Democrats were questioning whether councils should even be landlords. So it's a good job. It's our Labour leadership working on fair funding for Southwark. And it's not just new homes we'll build. We'll be able to maintain our award-winning parks, our free school meals and free swim and gym, and so much more. Now, in the spirit of other councillors tonight and being a critical friend on this Labour leadership and Labour government, I would also like to request that in the discussions Councillor King will be having with ministers, that she calls on them and Rachel Reeves to provide the fairer funding settlement in a fairer way. Not just by taxing working people, but by taxing wealth. The group Patriotic Millionaires, who some of you in this room might know, predicts that a 2% wealth tax on British assets over 10 million could raise up to £24 billion, plenty to cover the funding gap in Southwark. So yes, I absolutely commend this council's work to provide a fairer funding settlement in Southwark, but please let's get that settlement in the fairest way.
Thank you. Councillor Ellen Dennis.
So what do you want to do? Point of personal explanation?
Yeah. Okay, please.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Just as a point of clarification, if anyone was actually listening to me rather than talking, I didn't say finishes, I said starts. And if it takes you that long to finish a building and get building control sign off, obviously they're going to be spread around a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tester. Thank you. Please remove. Can I ask Councillor on what was point of order on?
Collection, and I believe that the record will show that the words used were not a brick laid. Could we clarify according to the minutes, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor, a point of order is actually when there is a breach of the Council Assembly procedure rules. Can you let us know which breach of Council Assembly rules you refer to?
Rich, I said it was an inaccurate statement.
Yeah, that's not a Council Assembly procedure rule, but she has for a point of personal explanation, and she has made the explanation. So, through you, Mr. Mayor, if we can then move on.
Please, let's move on. Thank you. Councillor Ellen Dennis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by recognising the real leadership that this council is showing through the fair funding consultation and representing the needs of our residents with absolute conviction. Whether it is the fair funding review, whether it is fighting for step-free access at train stations, including Peckham Rise Station, the subject of a future motion, whether it is fighting for our affordable housing policies to be implemented through the current Elsham planning inquiry, this Labour administration will absolutely fight for our residents with commitment and conviction.
one of the areas that I know has been at the forefront of the leaders' arguments and discussions is about the higher housing costs that are affecting all of us and residents in London. Renters in London pay proportionately much more on their housing than residents in other parts of the country. And indeed, Trust for London have estimated that Londoners in poverty spend 57% of their total net income on housing costs. So it is no wonder that we have these high levels of deprivation, people struggling to meet ends meet, and that homelessness has continued to escalate in London. So in addition to housing costs, one of the other arguments that we need to continue making is for homelessness and temporary accommodation to be adequately funded. London councils estimate a shortfall across London of £740 million. And there is an equivalent now of 11% on an average household council tax bill now going towards temporary accommodation. That is something that must be addressed in the homelessness strategy. I do welcome the homelessness funding that we have recently received from the government. And indeed, I'm very proud of the £520,000 that we also committed in our budget earlier this year to innovative solutions to address the homelessness crisis. Homelessness was absent from the Liberal Democrats budget and their amendments. We will continue to fight longer term for solutions such as unfreezing the local housing allowance and also uprating the temporary accommodation subsidy rate that has cost local authorities hundreds of millions in costs over the last 5 years. But then, of course, social rent housing and investment in the capital needs. And this has been spoken about, but let's recognise the £39 billion that this Labour government has committed to building social and affordable housing, and particularly social rent housing, something that the coalition government deprioritised when they slashed the affordable housing grants.
Time up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will now call on Councillor Tester, Emily Tester, please.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I do want to say one thing very quickly. It's not nice when people don't agree with you, right? And I bet some people are feeling a little bit uncomfortable about what's gone on kind of this evening. But it is absolutely right. And I do think it should be said that people should be able to exercise their right to peacefully process, even if this government does want to shut down that right. And I think talking about aggressive men shouting and jeering at women, well, in my experience, so you've got some of that in your own party, so maybe have a look in the mirror first. But I've got another uncomfortable truth for you that you will need to face tonight. What we are discussing here is the largest programme of austerity ever enacted on Southwark Council. And as Councillor Harper said earlier, you can't blame anyone else now. This is self-inflicted. Labour controls the government, Labour controls the mayor, and Labour controls Southwark Council. And if your party wanted to stop these cuts, you would. But this so-called fair funding review is a deliberate political choice to drain money away from London's communities, to sacrifice Southwark and other inner London boroughs in a cynical attempt to shore up the so-called red wall. For London, Labour's message seems to be, thanks for your votes, London, but now shut up while we cut your services. And yet every single weekend, Southwark Labour councillors are going to be out campaigning for the very government delivering these cuts. One can only imagine the confusing messages on the doorstep. The truth is that Southwark Labour have spent 15 years complaining about austerity, and now they hold every level of power. They've decided to copy and paste it. Frankly, complaining about a government that was in power when I was a child will not wash with voters anymore. You are in power now. Take some responsibility. This isn't fairness. It is just failure. And it's not as though London has no voice in government. The Secretary of State designing these cuts, a former leader of Lambeth Council, our new minister in the Housing Department, our very own Peckham MP. So I'll say this directly to Labour right now. Stop pretending you are victims of your own policies. You are the policymakers. Southwark residents deserve a council that will fight for fair funding and not one that waves the white flag just because the orders came from Westminster. Our motion tonight calls on this council to condemn these plans, demand change and back Liberal Democrat proposals for genuine local empowerment. fiscal autonomy, fair funding, and the freedom for councils to build homes, something that Thatcher stopped you guys doing a long time ago, and you're not even arguing to get these rigid controls taken off of councils. It's ridiculous. So in short, we're saying to Labour, stop whining about austerity, stop delivering austerity. Now you control the levers of powers, do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on the leader, Councillor Sarah King.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In our borough, we know too many people face deep inequality, hardship, and the daily struggle to get by. 1 in 3 children in Southwark lives in poverty once housing costs are taken into account. Those housing costs are among the highest in the country, and many families are forced to make impossible choices between feeding their children, heating their homes, or paying their rent. We do not need the Liberal Democrat group to tell us about that problem. That's because we're out on the doorstep, and that's why since I became leader, I've made clear my serious concerns about the impact the proposed fair funding reforms could have on our residents, and that the proposed changes could result in significant reductions in vital and much loved services. We haven't stayed silent, and we don't need you to ruffle our feathers. It may sound great in the chamber, and it may sound really clever on Twitter. We have always called for a funding model that reflects local needs and the real pressures that are faced by our residents. That includes exceptional housing costs. That's the pressures the council faces in terms of securing safe temporary accommodation for the homeless in our borough. And it also increases making the case for the support we need to deliver exceptional special educational needs supports to our children. We have been taking the case to government to demonstrate the way in which deprivation was calculated on housing and the children's formula was flawed. To make that clear case since becoming leader, I've ensured our members of parliament continue to make the case to the government, both publicly and privately for our residents, through regular briefings on the impact that the proposed reforms would have on residents here in Southwark. I've been at the centre of the work led by Central London Forward and London councils, including detailed consultation responses, and to ensure that we advocate on behalf of all inner London residents. And I've prioritised these concerns in every press and media interview I've done since becoming leader. So by the time Councillor Chamberlain wrote to me last month with a draft letter he was suggesting we both sent to the Secretary of State, a draft that he was so keen to post on social media, it was there within 20 minutes of sending the email. Just like every letter that's come before it, I had already been interviewed by the BBC, led a delegation to Parliament with our local and neighbouring MPs and the leader of Lambeth, met the Mayor of London to discuss the challenges, raised our concerns directly with Ali McGovern, the new local government minister, and spoken at length with the Secretary of State on several times. Each time to ensure all involved in making the final decision fully understand the deprivation in our borough, the flaws of the formula that was initially proposed, and the very real challenges our residents face.
Okay. The bulletin has now fallen, so we move to the vote. Okay, right, vote.
Councillor McGuinness is standing.
Sorry, I would like to extend the guillotine.
Are you moving? Yeah.
I'm proposing.
Yeah. No. Is that seconded?
No.
Not seconded, so we'll continue. So
We continue, thank you. So we now vote on amendment B. Those in favor of amendment B? Those in favor of amendment B?
(42), Mr. Mayor.
42. Those against?
13, Mr. Mayor.
13. Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Amendment B is carried. Thank you. I shall now move on to vote on motion 1
As amended.
as amended. Those in favor of substantive motion as amended, please.
Forty-three, Mr. Mayor.
43. Those against?
Twelve, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Substantive motion is carried. Thank you. Motion 2, action to divest the Southwark Pension Fund from conflict and genocide. The bulletin has now fallen, so the remaining motions are therefore deemed to have been formally moved and seconded. We shall now move to the vote on the motions and amendments. I shall now move to the vote on amendment C to motion 2. Those in favor of amendment C?
Thirteen, Mr. Mayor.
Those against?
Forty-three, Mr. Mayor.
43. Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
None. Amendment C is lost. I shall now move on to vote on motion 2. Those in favor of motion 2 as amended?
No, it's not amended. It's amended.
Oh, sorry, it's as written on my paper, sorry. Okay.
We put that.
Okay. All right, those in favor of amendment 2, is it? Yeah. Amendment 2, okay.
Of motion 2.
Yeah, motion 2, yeah, that's right. Yeah, of motion 2. Oh, sorry. Those in favor of motion 2, sorry. Those in favor of motion 2, sorry.
It's unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Unanimous, okay. So the select motion is carried. Thank you. Now, motion 3. The guillotine has now fallen. The remaining motions are therefore deemed to have been formally moved and seconded. We shall now move to the vote on the motions and amendments. So, those in favor of, I shall now move on to the vote on amendment D, and those in favor of amendment D.
Forty-three, Mr. Mayor.
43, and those against?
13, Mr. Mayor.
13. Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
The motion, the amendment is now carried. Thank you. I shall now, Southwark Council will not water down affordable housing requirements. Those in favor of motion 3 as amended. Motion 3 as amended. Motion 3 as amended. .
43, Mr. Mayor.
43. Those against?
Mr. Mayor.
13. Any abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
The substantive motion
As amended.
as amended is carried. Motion 4, cleaner and safer street in Southwark. I shall now move to vote on motion 4. Those in favor of motion 4?
9, Mr. Mayor.
9? How many?
9, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Those against?
Forty-seven, Mr. Mayor.
47. And abstentions? Any abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And the motion for 4 is now lost. It's lost. Right. Motion 5, make Peckham Line station safe and accessible. I shall now move to the vote on Amendment E to motion 5. Those in favor of Amendment E?
Nine, Mr. Mayor.
9, okay. Those against?
Forty-seven, Mr. Mayor.
47. And abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the amendment is lost. I shall now move on to vote on motion 5. Those in favor of motion 5? Unanimous.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. So the substantive motion is carried. Thank you. Motion 6, our water, our way. Councillor, I shall now move on to vote on amendment F to motion 6. Those in favor of amendment F?
Nine, Mr. Mayor.
9. Those against? Those against?
47, Mr. Mayor.
47. And abstentions?
None.
No. The amendment is lost. I shall now move on to motion 6, move on amendment 6. Those in favor of motion 6?
Forty-seven.
47. Those against?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
9 abstentions, Mr. Mayor.
9. The substantive motion is carried. The guillotine has fallen. We have 15 minutes to debate the report. This
Just mentioned the report.
proportionality and allocation of seats on committees, constitutional changes, appointment of chairs and vice chairs, motions. Yeah. So the item is deemed to be formally moved. There are no amendments to this report. Okay, so Assembly is asked to appoint a neighborhood champion for the East Central neighborhood area. We have received one nomination for this position, Councillor David Parton. As well, those in favor of David Parton, can you see your hand?
Yeah, unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. So the appointment of Councillor Parton, David Parton, to the role of East Central neighborhood champion is carried. Okay. I shall now move to the vote on the report recommendations amended by the addendum report. Proportional. Those in favor of the report recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those in favor of the report, just for notes.
No.
Those in favor.
Just clarify.
Okay, all right. Please, all right, put your hands down, please. Put your hands down.
You, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor, just to
thank you.
clarify, we are still on a report 6.1 proportionality. We have two limbs to that report. We have the constitutional changes. So we are now voting on the constitutional changes limb of that report. So through you, Mr. Mayor, those in favor, you can continue.
Okay, so proportionality and allocation of seats on committees, constitutional changes, appointment of chairs and vice chairs. Those in favor of the report recommendations. Please put your hand up so that you can be.
56, Mr. Mayor.
56. Those against?
Three, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
So the substantive motion is the recommended, the recommendation is carried. Thank you. Now we go on to Treasury Management Media Update 2025-2026. As the bulletin has fallen, we have 15 minutes to debate the report. This item is deemed to be formally moved.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. To be formally moved. Do any member, okay, Councillor Stephen Cran would like to speak to the report. Councillor Stephen Cran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies for getting a little bit confused earlier. It's been quite an eventful evening. So I just really want to speak about the Treasury Management Report, and I know I remind everybody of the importance of it, but it really is important because it sets out our finances, how we invest our funds and how we invest our money, our borrowing, our loans, how we repay those loans as well. It is one of the most important reports we as a Council Assembly look at and review. And I have to say, once again, I'm really pleased to say that every single part of our Treasury activity has been conducted in line with our approved strategy and prudential indicators. And I think it's so important to stress that we are meeting those prudential indicators. Just 30 September. Okay. External loans, we had 1.153 million. Our investments were at 66 million, and we had a debt position net of just over 1.1 million. We know we didn't take on any external debt during the last period. We didn't need to do that. And we now have introduced an ethical investment screening policy, which we are now implementing. And I really, really want to point out the fact that through our green investment bond, championed by Councillor Hicks, and I'm sorry she's not here today to take that credit, but we've raised an additional £1 million and invested that to support climate and sustainability initiatives across the borough. But the economic context is still, it's not as great as we'd like it to be. It's really challenging. Inflation still remains high. Bank of England are reducing the bank rate. They've reduced it to 4% in August, and we are expecting a cut in the final quarter of this year. But gilt prices still remain high, which impacts on our investments and our returns around that. long-term debt costs are expected to remain high, and that places pressure on the financing of the capital programme. The autumn statement at the end of this month from the Chancellor is expected to address a fiscal shortfall of 20 to 50 billion in the nation's economy as well. So we really want to listen to that and see what that does mean for our investment strategy. As I said, you know, our performance versus our peers, and I think it's really important to stress how we benchmark against other councils and against our peers. We've been given a 0% probability of default on investments. The peer average is 0.7%, so we are safer on that respect. Our investment yield has been at 4.16%, the peer average at 3.87%, and our debt interest rate is at 3.53% compared to a peer average of 3.66%. So I hope that adds confidence and that we are doing the right things for our treasury management strategy within the council there as well. So I'm going to leave it there. I have only got 12, I don't realise it took that long, but I will leave it there, and I commend this report, and I hope everyone votes for it.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Thank you. So I shall now move to the vote on the report recommendations. Let me just go through the vote first. Those in favor of the report recommendations?
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay, we now move on to 6.3.
Yeah, Councillor Dean has left. You have the DPI.
Okay.
No, so go on.
Okay, so we now move on to item 6.3, appointment of honorary recorder of Southwark. Okay. Okay, so all right, let's just put into a vote. Okay, appointment of honorary recorder of Southwark. Those in favor of the report recommendations, please.
Unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ocheri, I didn't see your hand up. Thank you. Yeah. The recommendation is carried. Okay.
Can Councillor Dean come back in, please?
Okay. It's kind of okay. Councillor Dean, are you okay? So 6.4, reappointment of independent person. Okay. I think I shall now move into a vote on the report recommendation. Those in favor of the report recommendations on the independent person?
It is unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
No, it wasn't, because somebody didn't put out their name, their hand. Yeah.
Sorrow?
Yes, Councillor Hussein didn't put up his hand. Yeah. So can we try again, please? Yeah. Those in favor, please, can we all raise our hand? Yeah. Agree. Thank you. Unanimous. Right. Okay. Thank you. That was the last item of business tonight for Council Assembly. And have a nice, thank you, and have an enjoyable rest of your night. Thank you.